1972, a crack commando unit was sent to prison by a military court for a crime they didn't commit. These men promptly escaped from a maximum security stockade to the Los Angeles underground. Today, still wanted by the government, they survive as soldiers of fortune. If you have a problem, if no one else can help, and if you can find them, maybe you can hire the A-Team.
And there we have it, the A-Team. And I love it when a plan comes together.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm sat here with my partner in crime, Anthony Critchley.
There's been some crime, though.
There's been a lot of crime. Not all done by us. A lot of it may be done by Gordon the Gopher and his old friend. But there's been a lot of crime done to humanity. But we are sat here today in our nearly complete new headquarters and studio.
Oh, it's exciting.
Which is going to be the new home of the Drake Michigan podcast.
Yep.
And it's also going to be the home for people who want to rent out the studio to do their own videos and adverts and podcasts. And, and we're going to offer all that service, aren't we?
Oh, yeah. Tartaria Studios, are we going
Tartaria Studios, because I've already got a business called Atlantis. So we've got the rise of Atlantis, and now we're going to have the rise of Tartaria.
Yay! Bringing back a real empire.
We're bringing back the empire. And because if you remember... the lady in Liverpool, when she did an angel reading on me all them years ago, she did say, "Did you realise, Kevin, you were Genghis Khan in a former life?"
Oh, here we go. They had the empire.
Now, listen, I'm not saying she was right or wrong. I'm just raising empires and chewing bubblegum.
I tell you what, though, Kev.
And I'm all out of bubblegum.
If you go to episode 1 of our podcast, there might be a little bit of a story of why.
Yes.
Why she said that as well.
I mean, do you know what? I mean, I hope people go back and listen to some of our earlier podcasts. And what they will notice is the quality difference from episode 1 to today's episode 16, where we're sat here now with new microphones. We're sat here with the new Rodecaster mixer deck.
What people won't realise as well is when we started, we were using the Canon camera, and every 12 minutes...
That's right.
They would cut out, so we had 4-hour episodes.
Oh, people will not realise the amount of work that you used to have to do.
This is making my life so much easier.
And just so people know, on episode 1, Critch took all the blankets out of his van, we filled the room with
soft furnishings,
loft installation, and we were choking to death on that, and there was quilts and pillars, and the sound was still echoey. From there, and do you know what? It's only been just over 3 months. And look where we are now.
It's an amazing transformation, and full credit has to go to you though, Kev, because what you do is you say, right, I'm doing something, and I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it properly. And you've just cracked on. And now we've got this studio. People won't see from this angle, but there's going to be 3 areas. Well, 4, really, because we've got the green screen, we've got photography. Listen, what we've got potential here at Tartaria Studios is just phenomenal.
It's phenomenal. And you know what? Yeah, I give myself... I'm learning to accept compliments and a pat on the back, and because I think that's important. But yeah, I am a creator, and I had a vision in my head. I knew exactly what I wanted. Yeah. And I've sort of put my action and my money where my mouth is and built it.
You certainly have.
it's a massive team effort, because it's okay building something, but if you're not surrounded by the right people who bring their skills,
it's energy. It's all energy,
It is,
isn't it?
it is.
You know, and we've learnt a lot as well.
yeah, and don't forget as well. Now we've brought in the wonderful Andy Barlow,
Yes,
and we've brought in the beautiful
Carly
Carly
Lou.
Lou,
Yeah.
who are going to bring some absolutely fantastic dynamics.
Oh, definitely.
But never to be overshadowed by us.
Oh no, we're the two.
Yeah,
We're the duo.
yeah,
Forget
yeah.
Carly and Amanda.
I'll go on record now. If they start getting more figures than us, there will be some financial cuts to the programme. I'm only joking, guys.
No, they're amazing.
No, they're going to bring in.
We're so happy that so within three to 4 months, not only is this created, but we brought in 2 amazing people.
Yeah.
And it's going to continue.
It has to grow, because when we rent the room out, we've already said we want to take on like maybe another technical person,
Yes,
who can deal with the all the cameras and the microphones and editing programs for people. And I know with our other business, Estimate My Plans, we're currently looking to mould a young person who has an interest in building, but also in quantum surveying. So if anybody knows anybody who wants to learn that, we're looking for somebody in that angle. And then also Apollo Windows, my other business, that's going to crack on bigger this year as well.
Yeah.
So there's lots good, and don't forget as well. And this is, people need to understand as well. So we all have different areas of our life, our interests, if you like. And a big interest is mine is when my life got turned upside down 15 years ago now, with all the spiritual stuff.
Yeah.
But in my own private life, as well as my business, obviously I'm a family man and I have kids, but I love poker. Anyone who knows me, I love playing poker. I love travelling the country. I want to go to Vegas. I want to travel all the world playing poker. And I also, I like having a bet. And I've done well over the years. You've
done very well, I would say.
Done all right. And do you know what? So one of the new programs that we're going to bring is Precision 3.
Yeah.
It used to be called Precision 3 Sport, but we're going to change that a bit, because we're going to introduce guests onto the podcast talking about sports related, ex-footballers, but we're going to bring in a part of it which is dominate poker, basically. So I've got a great fella called Mark Physic, and I'm going to get him involved, and my plans with that is not only to have a show where we bring in people who play poker and teach people and talk about upcoming events and people who have just won events, but also then I want my own little stable of poker players going out playing.
Why not?
You know, because what that does, that takes my mind off all the spiritual stuff or all the business stuff.
It's grounding you, that, isn't it?
Yeah. So
and it's a passion of yours, and everyone should have a passion, and everyone should enjoy their lives. Whatever passion you've got, you should enjoy.
And if you remember, so I said, again, 15 years ago or more, I had this vision there where we're sat on a couch with a coffee table in front of us with the racing post, looking through Saturday's horse racing programme, looking through the poker programme, looking through the football fixtures, and then also as well telling people, look, this is what we're going to put a bet on today.
I remember it well. There was, I think, me, you, and Sean were sat in, I think, one of your rooms. I'm sure it was, and we were talking about it, and you were saying, look, this is a passion. Wouldn't it be great if every day we go to work and it's here and we're having a laugh, we're having fun. But you know what? We've created that already.
Yeah.
That side we've created.
Do you know what, and like when I was just doing Atlantis, the business, and I actually thought I had the best job in the world then.
Yeah.
Because I'd created something where I can literally come and go as I please. But now this is what we've created now. It's like it's combined my long life, or like since I was 29, 30, my passion, with almost as a job. It is literally the best job in the world.
Oh, I think so. It's not a job, is it?
It's not a job, and we've created it. We've created it, and it's ace.
Look, a big pat to you, mate, because you've funded it. I know it takes energy from all angles, but without that funding, we would not be having this discussion right now in this beautiful room. What was a storeroom.
Wait till we show everybody the videos of what it used to look like.
Yeah, exactly.
And what it's turned into.
It's amazing.
People on the community, on the forum, on Facebook, they've seen the progress as we've gone along.
Yeah.
But we're going to build a little video, aren't we?
Yeah, we're going to do a little video, and but wow, yeah, amazing. And tell you what, we've got a great guest today, but we've We've got some amazing guests lined up through the next few months. We're into August with our list.
Do you know what? I mean, because we've come in from two different angles, which is fantastic. So obviously I've got the spiritual side, you've got the truth movement and everything, what's going on there. So some of these guests, although they're not sort of familiar to me because it's not been, but I know you've said to me, Kev, this is a massive scoop. We've got some really, really, big
We've got a big one confirmed. I'll not say anything right now, but we've got a big one confirmed.
And it might be a rumble. But,
it's a definite rumble.
But do you know what? So many people are searching for different answers and they're looking in different angles.
Yeah.
And this is why we always said we're a personal, a professional, and a spiritual platform.
Yeah.
And listen, we do the Mag Sanders, and we're going to bring in some laugh and a humour because that's our personalities, that's our characters.
Yeah, we need to.
We have to do that. But we have to sort of, we have to break it up so people know, look, if you come to us in this section, this is what you're going to get. If you come to us in this section, like Andy Barlow's going to bring in all the legal stuff and the law stuff, which is quite serious.
It is, but it's all about, at the end of the day, it's all about raising consciousness and raising vibration, giving people their power back, or allowing them to find their true power within. Everything we're doing is on that level.
It's all connected. Everything we do is connected. You don't even have to be in the spiritual or the truth movement to get something from we're offering.
I hope something is resonating with everyone that watches it.
So don't forget as well, subscribe.
Please subscribe.
Subscribe. Jump on the mailing list. And I know what's it called. We'll talk about it a little bit more. So first of all, let's have a little talk about today's guest.
Okay.
Because today's guest, and there's a reason why we played the A-Team at the start.
Oh, there is.
Because today's guest, he might have actually been one of the members of the A-Team.
I
Who
think
knows?
he possibly was.
I don't know which one.
It might be BA.
Because BA,
Mr. T.
Well, I don't know if you'd say Mr. T these days.
No.
I think you've got to be careful with pronouns.
Yeah, Mr.
Maybe Mr. Alphabet. Mr. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P. Because, we don't want to be discriminating.
Oh, no, we don't want to upset. No offence.
Because we're not into that.
No, I'm not into offending anyone.
I mean, people have said to me, Kev, if your knuckles scrape on the floor any lower. But anyway, let's get back. So we played the A-Team introduction because today's guest is actually an ex-paratrooper with a fantastic story to tell.
Yeah. He
had many awakenings, mainly probably the first ones, I think, during 9/11.
Yes.
He's had his own awakenings on the battlefield as well. And then everything was sort of building up. And then when the COVID and the pandemic hit, I think that was sort of the nail in the coffin.
I think he had a calling card of really what's his plan, what's his purpose within this period now.
Yeah.
And
And this gentleman, who is Tim Gill.
Mr. T.
Mr. T. It is Mr. T. Mr. T.
Mr. TG.
Mr. Tim Gill. We're going to introduce him shortly, which is going to be fantastic because I know it's going to be a really interesting podcast. Now, but before we do that, I want to just have a little chat with people because I was having a shower this morning like you do. And I always ask out to source or energy or whatever you want to call it, can I have some inspiration?
Yeah.
Is there any messages, that kind of stuff? Now, I'm not going to sit here and be one of these who say, oh, I've got a message from whatever, or I've got because as I get stuff, I'm not going to say, I don't feel like I'm getting it from another person or anything like that.
Yeah.
But if you're classing the thoughts that come into your head as guidance or what's it called when you
hire
channeling. Yeah. So basically, if your thoughts are classed as channeling, okay, then let's call it that. Okay, but anyway, so I was just in the shower this morning. I was having a think about things, and the first thing that popped into my head was the Rubik's Cube.
All right.
And so I'm just stood there having a shower, eyes closed, and I'm watching the images that are coming into my head, and I had this Rubik's Cube. And the message was, a lot of people would walk around the shops, and the Rubik's Cube would be on the shelf, and they would just walk past it, never paying it any attention whatsoever. And that's a little bit like most of humanity.
Yeah.
Then there'll be some
Yeah,
people
good point,
who buy the Rubik's Cube off the shelf
Yeah.
and they might open the box.
Yeah.
Okay, they might have a little dabble.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then what happens is they get frustrated. They can't do it. They don't understand
That
it.
would have been me, that.
So what they do is they throw the Rubik's Cube in the drawer or across the room when they can't do it.
Man went across the road.
And also what you might get is you might get a few people who misunderstand or cheat. They take the stickers off.
Oh, I did that as well.
And, but the thing is, you're only cheating yourself.
Absolutely.
Okay, so obviously this message, what's coming through, as you can imagine, it's a bit metaphysical.
Metaphysical.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
So what we'd got was, life is a bit like the Rubik's Cube. How you have to try and keep working at it. And even when you get one side all the same colour, you realise you've got it completely wrong because the other side's not going to work unless you keep moving it.
Yeah.
So even when you think you've got something right, you realise you're nowhere near what you think.
Yeah.
But you have to keep at it. You have to keep learning it.
Life is a puzzle, isn't it?
Life is a puzzle. So I had this feeling of, look, and people are waking up. People are just opening the box to the Rubik's Cube.
Yeah, I think
now,
so.
there's going to be people, whether it's people like ourselves or people who opened the box 15 years ago.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people are only just waking up in the last 2 years.
Oh, they are. Yeah,
Okay.
they are.
So, and I remember 15 years ago, people who were more experienced than me then saying, look, the reason why this is happening to you now is because in the future, you're going to have to help people do the Rubik's Cube.
Interesting.
Now, the other thing that come in, so you understand where I'm going with the Rubik's Cube, don't you? Right. So, but it's a never-ending puzzle, by the way. Because do you know what? Just when you think you've solved it, it'll get mixed up and you got to do it all again, right? So,
it makes
but
sense.
also as I got this feeling of the Rubik's Cube and working stuff out, I also got a feeling, and the words come to me, of a farmer.
Right.
And the message that I felt or got was, we are the farmers
Right.
of the earth at the moment,
Okay.
and our children and our grandchildren, and look at the goosebumps, oh my days.
Yeah.
Our children and our grandchildren are the seeds that we have planted.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of people will not pay any attention to the surroundings and the soil, and the seeds will grow with many difficulties and become part of the system, if you like, or difficulties. Other people will nurture the soil and the seeds, and they'll be very, very protective, and the seeds will begin to grow, and they will grow healthy with the right environment.
Yeah.
Now, that's not to say outside forces can't come along and still, influence and break these seeds and these growing plants and everything else.
Yeah.
But what I sort of got as well at the moment was, the fact is, so when you're nurturing and looking after these seeds to give them the best environment to grow, right, the only way, or the best chance you've got to give these seeds to grow is to feed them knowledge.
Yeah.
And the message what I sort of got was, there's no point fighting, right, because you won't win on as in with swords or battles, or you're not going to win that fight. But one thing what you can't have taken away from you is your free will. And so what people need to understand is, knowledge is power.
Yeah.
And when people have the knowledge and when people come together, that is the true voice of God.
Yeah.
Okay. So now the way I interpreted these messages coming through was, for many, 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 many years, we have been lied to.
Yeah.
We've been lied to about governments, about this setup, about the agendas, about anything and everything.
Right. Okay.
Right. Okay. Wars. We've been led into numerous wars. What is not our fight and didn't need to take place. They were done for other people's means and greed.
Yeah.
Now, the other thing was important. I know this is a bit of a going on a little bit, but the thing is, God never told anybody anything. He never told you have to do this or you have to do that. So when man or woman or whatever is being led astray by energy, that energy is by certain individuals leading their agenda. Now, their agenda, whether it's for good or bad, but God is not going to get involved because that's taking away your free will. The only way you can get involved is by having more knowledge and understanding these people have not got your best interests at heart. So we need to learn things like, let's just take, for argument's sake, the theory of evolution.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are brought up with, monkeys into humans and Darwin's theory.
Yeah.
A lot of people won't realise Darwin, if you follow the money, was from a very wealthy background.
Oxford, wasn't it, or Cambridge?
Something like this. Yeah, he never did any of the research himself. His family paid a friend who was interested in this subject. I think his name was Henry Wallace, who went out into the wilderness and went out into the Amazon rainforest and everything. And he did the research. And then what happened is he got ill and died. And then basically the Darwin family took all his work and research, put their name on the front cover and told the world it was theirs. Okay?
Nothing like corruption, is there, when money's concerned?
Now, the thing is, then the people who push the TV and the media and the agenda and school curriculum and everything else, they have the way of saying, no, this is the truth, so that's what they push down your throat. So, again, people need to understand knowledge and trace back money. Right. Now, ultimately, I'll save people times, because what you have to remember is the likes of me and Anthony here, we're already standing on the shoulders of giants.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
People have already done so much of the work for us. We just need to try and pass it on and give it other people.
Absolutely.
So little things like the lady who's the head of Ofsted. She's never been a teacher a day in her life. No. She's the wife of a top banker, a city banker.
Shock horror.
Right. These are the people teaching your kids what they want you to know.
Yeah. Education.
Okay? Now, let's take someone like Jeremy Clarkson, born from a wealthy family. His parents were the creators, I think, of Paddington Bear. Obviously, now, a very unremovable force on your mainstream TV. No coincidence there.
No.
Now, we can go straight through anyone and anybody who's anybody. And there is links.
Big influences usually are, yeah.
You have to follow the money, and the monies all lead back to the banks. The banks rule everything. You were a corporation.
Absolutely.
People have to learn, when you were born, you were actually a twin.
That's
okay?
right, yeah.
There's a fictional character, and there's a non-fictional character.
Yeah.
Now, unfortunately, people don't know which they are. They didn't even realise there was two of them.
That's right.
But the legal system is only dealing with the with the non-fictional character, the paperwork, the entity of your name. When you were born, you were floated on the stock exchange or the FTSE or whatever it is, and you were worth money. Now these are little things that people have probably never come across, never knew nothing about.
Q Andy Barlow,
and because it's this knowledge that you have to teach your kids.
I agree, and I think where the farmers, like you said, you had this vision, this about a farmer. There is responsibility as a farmer. So in terms of that, we have responsibility to pass that knowledge on, 100%. To learn, to gain knowledge, and to pass it on. Yeah, and raise vibration.
I know, and do you know what? People will be coming to the platform, and they might say, like, so wherever you are in your journey, people might say, how do I do meditation? How do I do visualization? How do I learn manifestation? Right. So these are like some of the early things that people get into, before it gets to. Now, so an analogy, what I learnt as well was very simple. Back to the farming.
Right. So
if you could imagine the farmer, he comes off the road and we've all followed a tractor down and he turns onto his field.
Yeah.
And what happens is the farmer, his wheels go in the same tread marks every day.
Yeah.
And literally, he can sit back and the tractor will just follow the previous tread marks.
Yeah.
And it'll never go off course.
Yeah.
And that's a bit like people's lives.
Oh, definitely.
Okay?
Definitely.
Now, if that farmer turned his steering wheel just a quarter of an inch, just looked outside the box, just opened the Rubik's Cube.
Doesn't life get a bit more interesting?
Well, it gets interesting, but this is what I was also... If he turned his steering wheel for just a little quarter, right, what would happen is, on day one, his tractor would very, very slightly come In fact, it would stumble and it would struggle to get out of the old tread marks.
Yeah.
Right? And he would fight a lot of resistance,
true.
a lot
That's
of
so true.
pushback.
Yeah.
The tractor would want to fall back into the old routine.
That's right, yeah.
But if he kept at it, within a few hours, he would be out of the old tread marks and he'd be heading in a different direction. Yeah. Now, if you were stood on the road watching him, after a few hours, you would still be able to see the tractor and you'd be able to see his old tread marks. But after 24 hours, you would not see that tractor. You would only see the tread marks. Yeah. That tractor has gone in a completely new direction. It's made a new life for himself. It has new information, new knowledge.
I like that. It's just, because, again, it's an adventure, isn't it? And we should have an adventure, shouldn't we?
Of course.
We're only here for a period of time in this experience.
And if we're going to do anything, let's find out as much knowledge and truth and facts as we can, and let's pass it on to our children.
Yes, indeed.
And let's arm the next generation with more than we've got.
I agree.
Because if there is going to become this time, and this is another thing, right? This battle, what people talk about, has gone on forever. Mm-hmm. The battle between good and evil, the battle between light and dark, up and down, hell and heaven. Mm-hmm. It is an ongoing battle.
It is.
Right? Now, some people might be at the moment thinking we're in end days. People might be thinking these are really worrying and troubling times. There's other people out there who are saying, embrace this because it's going to be the most amazing, magical thing that ever happens to this planet. So a lot of people are you've got one camp who are sort of like in the fear, which for me, that's what the dark want.
Of course
they want you in the fear.
Yeah, of course.
They want to ping to your phones. Yeah. They want a pandemic. They want a war.
Yeah, easily controlled when you're frightened.
But then you've got other people who are sat there who are like, la da 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 da, couldn't give a monkeys. Mm-hmm. And people are saying, why are you not bothered? And you're like, because I opened the Rubik's Cube box 15 years ago. Do you know what I mean? And it's like... And I've got plenty faith in the big fella upstairs.
Yeah.
Because there's one thing for certain. We have to gain the knowledge of man and the evidence of history and what's gone on. But we also have to realise there's a higher power, a spiritual source, a God, or whatever you want to call it. And he's giving you nudges. Yeah. If you're listening to this podcast now, you've been given a little nudge.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
If you're coming across synchronicity and numbers, that is the source giving you a nudge saying, come on, wake up. You need to know some more stuff. But anyway.
Good stuff, mate.
Without further ado, let's welcome today's amazing former paratrooper, former A-team member, Mr. Tim Gill.
Mr. T.
Mr. T. What are you talking about, fool? Hi everyone, welcome to this week's episode of the Drake, Michigan podcast. And we're very fortunate enough to have this week with us the Carry On Camping main man himself.
The Kingpin,
Mr. Tim Gill. Hiya, Tim.
Hello,
Pleased
everybody.
to meet you, mate. Good to meet
Nice
you,
to
buddy.
be here.
Good to see you again, mate.
Now, Tim, so I know Anthony knows you from previous.
Yeah.
So you've met a few times and you know a little bit. But for myself, I don't know you. So a lot of what hopefully you're going to share with us today is new for me. And hopefully I'm going to learn some stuff as well, because a lot of the genre and the movements, what we've been talking about with many people, including Anthony, is all sort of quite new to me. It's not something that I've been involved in or I even have had much interest in. I come at the whole platform from a completely different angle. But what I've noticed over the last 3 months with all the guests we've had on is the level of knowledge and information that's coming out. I've just found it personally just unbelievable, amazing. You know what I mean? I'm not saying I can take everything. Do you know? I'm not going to say I will. I'll just make my own mind up as I go along with it. But one thing I have learned is like, whoa, there's a lot of stuff going on what people don't know about and they need to know about. And there's a lot of stuff like fear mongering as well, and there's a lot of people who are saying things might not be accurate. So but hopefully we can cover all this stuff and talk about many subjects. So what I was thinking is, now you've got a lot of story to tell us, and one of your main parts, what I do know is you're an ex-serviceman. So was that Royal Marines? Did you say?
No. I was part of the Parachute Regiment,
Parachute
which is
Regiment.
to some degree it's quite similar to what the Royal Marines do. It's classed as an elite unit, and I served there from 1996 to 2001. 5 years service, couple of operational tours within that, and I learned quite a few courses. Which is involved in that. Great time, lots of travel, and I think to some degree that gave me the benefit of learning new skills, which would later harness those.
So did you come out to school straight into the army?
No. The Parachute Regiment tends to recruit a slightly older recruit. I mean, I think because of the arduous nature of the training of it, which is about 6 months.
Yeah.
I think if you come straight from school, you're not kind of filled out as a man as such yet to carry those sort of.
So just so I can get my head around. So you come out to school and okay, you might go into one job or two jobs. So what happens where it's sort of you think, do you know what, I'm going to go and be a para regiment, or I'm going to.
Yeah.
What happens? How do you get into that?
I would imagine that a lot of the young men are similar. I joined when I was 20. I made the decision that I would go and prove myself, not just to myself, I suppose, to my peers and to family. I suppose it would be. That would be the general sort of idea, is that you need to prove something to yourself on that.
So was you looking for direction in your life?
No, I was looking to prove something.
Just it was to prove.
Is that to yourself or to others? Or?
I think at that point it was just to myself.
Yourself.
Really. I mean, I left school, went to college. By the time I was finished at college, at 18, I was doing sort of a number of sort of dead-end jobs, should we say.
Yeah.
So it was nothing, I wasn't really going in a specific direction.
Yeah.
And I come from a military background. My father was in the military.
Oh, right, okay. That makes sense more sense.
Yeah, so it's kind of like in your blood. Directly, I think, because my father was in the military as well, and I believe his father was military, so we come from a long line.
I was going to ask that, so because you normally find, and it's funny as well, because my spirit guide, he's the military, US Marine, and we'll talk about that anyway, but his whole family was Marine. His son, so it's all in the family. And I often think it's like, if you've been brought up with that and your dad served or your granddad served, is that naturally you're around that kind of thing?
Yeah, I think so. I think we're kind of to some degree predestined as what we're going to do. I think early on what made the difference with the evolution of humans was how we specialised, wasn't it? Yeah. And that's how we created societies. Okay, you can make 500 loaves of bread in one day, great, you'll be the baker, and then the tailor, the plasterer, the bricky, and we found what we was good at, and what sort of aptitude we could put into that. Me personally, I think you can make soldiers out of most men, right. Because of the way the way British history, you might sort of say, has developed over the years. But for me, I found something that I was reasonably good at, I think. Yeah.
So 96. So I left school in 94. So I would have been 18. So you're a few years older than me.
I'm 49.
49, yeah. I'm 45. So back in I'm trying to think, 96. Was there what was going on at the time? Was Iraq going on at the time? 96.
No, it had been done. The first Gulf War, I believe, was in 1991.
Yeah.
And then conflict-wise, during my time of service was Kosovo, and that was 1999.
That was the old Czech Republic?
No, that was more sort of the Balkan regions.
Sorry. Okay.
So that was, to some degree, a tail end of what the Serb Croats were doing there.
Right. Okay.
Former Yugoslavia and all things like that.
That's right.
So yeah, that was one of the operational tours that we did.
Okay. Did you have any fear? Did you have any fear when you were doing these kind of things? Was there anything? Or were you always been quite a brave character through growing up? Or
maybe brave or stupid is one of them. I think it's a close description, isn't it?
Does a parent instill that, like, I'm a man, strong ethics Was your old
Well, I
man
think-
quite a firm military man at home, or completely different character?
Well, no, I mean, I would say that he certainly had his own self-discipline, that was for sure. But he wasn't like, the, how can I put it, the stereotypical, military sort of father, because, he only did about the same time service as what I did, and then he went on to become his own business truck driver.
Oh, right. Okay.
So really, that was something that he did, and then he became something else, should we say. So his sort of, his own self-discipline was really good.
Yeah.
He was a provider, he was a breadwinner. So, he was old school. He was a tough guy, but he had, a fantastic sort of moral compass.
Yeah.
So I think, to answer your question, like, what I think to be brave, I suppose, is something that it's nature and nurture, isn't it? Of course, if you're given situations where you need to act upon that, then you're going to be tested on your mettle, aren't you? Of course.
Yeah.
But if you're not given those situations, then you revert back to the fight or flight. How are you going to deal with that situation? But the more you're presented with like I said, these situations, the more you become accustomed to it and almost desensitised to it. And there's been certainly a lot of occasions where I have desensitised to some of these situations, in particular when I was a close protection officer out in Iraq. We'd experienced missiles and mortars coming in, and some of the guys out there will know exactly what I'm talking about.
I can't even imagine to.
I want to ask you, just sorry, because I want to go back, because I'm a little bit fascinated with a few things, right? So I want to sort of try and, because as somebody who's never served, I've got a few mates who did. I've got a few mates who dropped out after the initial training. Growing up, and then I had a few mates who went on to be like riflemen and different. So I've got a few friends, knocking about the place. So, I want to sort of get to know what goes on. So you've signed up and you go off for your, is it 6 to 12 weeks training or something?
No, well, it's Parachute Regiment. It's quite a bit longer for that. So you'll sign up. To some degree, you'll take the Queen's shilling and all that.
Well, just to interrupt you, right? Because I want to make sure we get into as well, because I don't want to get into it yet, but later on, I want to know. When we think of king and queen and country and politics, and I want to get into all of that. And now, because a lot of military people seem to form an opinion and sort of be leaning a certain way, which is probably the total opposite way as I would probably be thinking and feeling as well. But so it'll be interesting to get and also on your journey, I want to see if that's changed. Do you know what I mean? So this is what I was asking. And first of all, I wanted to know was how good is our British Army and military and Parachute Regiment and everything else, and then I want to get on to a little bit about asking her these kind of questions. If you don't mind.
Yeah, not a problem. No, I think the question that you sort of
about the training,
towards, and also beyond that is allegiance as well, which I'm happy to talk about. Training wise, 6 months training for the Parachute Regiment, and it's nothing short of arduous and painful, both mentally and physically. It's only second to the SAS.
Wow.
50% of the SAS come from the Parachute Regiment. So that was going to give you a bit more indication of what sort of training it is. Up there with it, and I will pay homage to the Royal Marine Commandos, and the training that they do is extremely tough as well. But I would say Parachute Regiment, of course, any bootnecks out there, is a little bit harder, isn't it? And I know they'll be listening. So we do have a little bit of an upper hand, but I mean, joking aside, I think the mutual respect that the Royal Marines and the Parachute Regiment have is paramount. Because it's not just a turn up and sign on the line. You are selected. 6 months training, you have your basic training, and then you go on to Special to Arms, which is specific to the Parachute Regiment. You're trained by paratroopers.
Right.
And then that culminates in a physical challenge called P Company. And P Company is a week-long test of your physical extremes. And that's, it might take a little bit long to start going to each individual test of that. But that's, I suppose, is the first rung of the ladder to see how brave you are.
Right.
there's a physical test on that called the Trinasium, and the Trinasium is like a scaffolding apparatus where you like an assault course, you might sort of say. And there's an illusion jump on that where you have to propel yourself over these from these scaffolding boards onto a lower scaffolding board. It looks from that point where you're stood that you're not going to make it, but you have to trust them, you have to trust yourself that it has been done before and it can be done again. At the very top of that, about 80 foot up I think it is, you have 2 towers with 2 scaffolding poles going across. You have to shuffle across.
No, thank you.
No ropes.
No, thank
nothing.
you.
Yeah.
No.
And so, you know, your Trinasium is the first rung of where you're going to be tested.
I don't do heights, I couldn't do that.
No. I mean, I'm not that great with heights myself.
Really?
But I mean, I have a natural sort of caution. I won't say fear.
Yeah.
But I'll have a natural caution of it, because we haven't got wings, so we don't fly, do we?
No.
And, but that being said, so you'll you go through the P company stage, which is the physical test, and if you pass that, you'll then go on to Bryce Norton, where you do get your wings, your parachute wings, and that's jumps from an airplane.
Had you ever done anything like that before you joined, or?
No, nothing like that at all. No.
So after a 6 month period of intense training, now I can imagine 6 months feels like forever while you're going through it. But if you look at it from a bigger perspective, it's not that long a period.
Not really, I suppose. I mean, I think when you're at that age of, tender age of 19, 20 and 21, 6 months can seem such a long time. But on reflection, now at the age of 49, I think, well, so absolutely that was worth sort of.
Yeah, so I was thinking then, but after a 6 month period, are you a change character? Are you a change person? Have you been given a certain set of skills where you're thinking, listen, I've learnt a lot in this last 6 months?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you'd be hard pressed not to be changed with 6 months Parachute Regiment training.
Sorry, just to turn that phone off. Don't mean to. Sorry, I should have took that one out.
You're all right.
Just
You're all right.
Michelle aren't I?
Exactly. Exactly. I thought you were going to bring a hat today.
Yeah, I know. I should have done, shouldn't I? Yeah, it needs a good wash, that does.
So sorry.
If you answer that question, then I'll take.
Yeah. So after 6 months of training, are you a changed person?
Absolutely, yeah. And I think as you'd be hard pressed not to be changed from something like that. Physically. Physically, I mean, I've always been chunky anyway, but I was at least a stone lighter by the end of that. Mentally, the most important part, of course, you are changed. Your resolve, to get the job done has certainly been changed on that for the better. You're tested. It's not just the physical test week of P Company. And, the paratroopers out there will know this, is that it's the continual, what we call beastings, the physical thrashings that you get every day. And that's all to prepare you.
Yeah.
It's all, to some degree, there's a little bit of conditioning to some degree. Yeah. Condition can be, can be frowned upon, should we say, and it then sort of lends itself to cognitive dissonance and things like that. It's not so much that. Hopefully, I'd like to sort of dispel some myths today with either current soldiers or veterans. We're not robots.
No.
And what I have to say with the Parachute Regiment in particular, they're a very rebellious bunch.
Right.
So, we don't march everywhere. I marched twice in the army, and that was one to learn how to march, and then the second time I marched was on a 25-year celebration of what we call changing the colours, the flags, the rally flags. That only happens every 25 years. So the Parachute Regiment, and I think to some degree with the Royal Marines in particular as well, there's less discipline, regime there almost to some degree. So you're not tick-tocking everywhere. Yeah, it's not like that. It's because there's a lot more sort of understanding and mutual respect from within the ranks.
I was going to say after, during that, because I take it during that 6 months there would have been people who dropped out.
Yeah, I mean, we started off on my recruitment. We started with 59 guys, week one, day one, and by the time we were finished, there was 12 of us.
Wow.
Yeah.
Officer and gentleman.
So
Yeah.
no, so because straight away, so for them final 12, there's ultimate respect because you've all gone through it.
Unbelievable.
So that's that's what I'm saying. So there's a whole new level of respect. I'm not, and to be honest, I wouldn't less respect anyone else because you would have known yourself how hard the training is, and everyone's only got their own level of
respect for anyone who signs up because I know
do you know what I mean?
Have had the
well, I think sometimes people sign up on a whim. I think a lot of lads you come out of school and sign up for all these and I remember friends and they don't even last a day. They make some excuse to come home before they've even.
Would that be the army or it wouldn't be the Paris?
Yeah, that was more the army. I think. So you've got these obviously the 12 and you've got this level of respect for each other. So then, but after that 6 months period, is what happens then? Do they sort of say, right, you're ready, we're going to throw you into something now? Or?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, after that 6 months
is it
training,
that quick?
It can be that quick. I mean, we by the end of the 6 months, I think we had what we call a final parade to do, and that's like a chance for mums and dads to come along and family members and give yourself a pat on the back. Well, we never got that. We completed all the training. The final parade was nothing really, just a bit of a shiny boots kind of moment, and then we would then went directly to one para because there was an incident happening in Zaire where there was expats that would need to be extracted from that situation. So we didn't really do a final parade, but you are good to go. You are pretty much good to go.
At what point? Because let's be honest, you sign up with all great intentions. I want to be a paratroop and all the rest of it. You do the training, and obviously while you're doing the training, okay, it's physical and there's zone 12, right? At what point does it click in? Like now that you might actually be sent on active duty on a mission, if you like, and when does it click in? Like I could actually get fucking hurt here. Something could actually happen. Is there a point where you actually think, like, I never really thought this through?
Well, there's no turning back, I suppose. And I think on reflection of the guys that came all the way to the end and passed, I think their mental preparation was for that.
Yeah.
Right.
So you're not turning back then, are you?
No,
You're ready, aren't you?
the recruits. Will fail for many different reasons. It's not always just sort of physical, but it'll be the mental stipulations that it needs to be operational as soon as you finish. We had guys that went all the way through the training, went to Brize Norton, got the wings, learned how to parachute, and then that was it. They left. They said, I've proven what I was there to do, but I don't actually want to become operational.
I didn't know you were allowed out at that point. I thought you had to sign up for so many years.
You are required to sign up for 3 years, but there are options where you can
so you
exit at that point.
And do you think that that's because the realisation's its own then? Like, listen, I'm going actually into...
Well, I think the Parachute Regiment recruit, the Parachute Regiment as a whole, they recruit not just from the UK, but also Commonwealth countries, being Canada and Australia and all places like that. Yeah. South Africa as well, we have recruits from there. So I think it tends to draw in a much different sort of young man, mainly orphans, or you want to join the circus sort of thing, or maybe a little bit wayward, should we say. Yeah. But also... from the other end of the spectrum, it will attract a recruit who's pulled out of university. Very intelligent men have joined it. And it'll also have young men in there that are merely using the Parachute Regiment as a stepping stone onto the SAS, because that's their ultimate goal.
So people really want to do that.
Yeah. So it's quite a broad spectrum. But I think going back to your earlier question of when that realisation kind of kicks in, I suppose it's different for everybody, for the individual.
Yeah.
I think mine was on the bus from the training ground to Aldershot to join One Para for that. I mean, I fizzled out into nothing, so we didn't go there in the end. Yeah. But that was a realisation. After clock at night, getting issued our operational kit ready to go for the next day. That's how quickly that was going to happen. Right. But it didn't in the end.
I'm scared thinking about it.
So
So obviously you've done your training and everything. So how long was it before you get deployed for your first operation?
First operational tour was in the 97 to Belfast, and that's classed as an operational tour because they loved us out there. They gave us a lovely warm-up.
At that time, that period was quite high.
Yeah, it was.
Hot, really.
Yeah, it was like, and that was booked in for a 6 month tour in West Belfast, and they gave us a lovely warm welcome with bricks and stones and all the rest of it, because the Parachute Regiment were hated. Probably still are to some degree.
Why is that?
In Northern Ireland, because of the Troubles, really. There's certain incidents that have happened over the years. Bloody Sunday being
right.
Yeah, I mean, they all obviously today's not the day for that, but that is an actual podcast worth talking about, because the Troubles in Ireland, and also to get both sides of the story. That's important, because I know the obviously British soldiers and everything, but also the British government have a big role to play in that.
Absolutely.
And the Irish have their side, and I mean, I have a friend who actually looks upon the Irish as freedom fighters, because basically, like terrorists, if you like, how else can you fight a machine that's bigger than you? So there's different ways of looking at it, and there's always two angles of it for every conflict. Do you know what I mean? So like, I'm not going to sit here and defend the British monarchy and the army and all the rest of it, because I have my own feelings on it all. So that'll be interesting. But Ireland's really a touchy one as well, because of Good Friday and the Good Friday.
Very close to home.
Very close to home.
And I think because it went on for so long, it was the late 60s when it started erupting. But even before that, Easter Uprising was in 1912, I think it was. So it's gone on for a long time. My opinions on that, I'm probably not going to comment fully on what it is, because it is an entirely different subject.
Yeah. And I think and it's important. I think I wouldn't go into it deep, because I don't have the knowledge, and I think I'd have to do proper research, and that's what I'm always conscious about. Careful. You can't just have throwaway opinions on something.
Because something's so
but I am fully aware of. I think it is important that you get all that facts in both sides to the and also because whoever's because this is my thing. If you're a soldier, right? So let's say you're a British soldier, and you're sent somewhere to do a job. You might not actually be thinking of the politics behind the whole thing. You might actually just be carrying out your duty and your service.
Is that a bit weird for you?
Well, this is what I think with this, and I've sort of been posed this question before to some degree, is it has to revert back to the way we are as British men. Now, your allegiance is not to Queen and country, or whoever it might be sort of in that seat right now. It's your allegiance is there to your fellow soldiers. Guys that are in your platoon. So you may very well take the Queen's shilling, but you're there for the next guy sat next to you.
Yeah.
Right. You're there for your own sort of personal reasons as well. So that's about as far as it really goes. Now, I think what we have to understand is the way evolution has happened, in particular, if we talk about the British. I'm very proud to be British, and that doesn't make me right-wing or a nationalist. It just makes me have more knowledge of who I am and where I come from. So the British, wow. We've gone in many conflicts over hundreds of years. Now the British was formed was over thousands of years of many different nations invading us. They changed our gene pool forever. Everything from the Romans to the Vikings to the Celts to the Normans, they all brought something to the table. And over those couple of thousand years in particular, they came in, changed our gene pool forever, but brought lots of different things. The Germanics brought the order, should we say. The Nordic element, the Vikings, I suppose, they brought that aggression into battle. I think the Normans probably brought in a bit of flair and panache, should we say. And then from that, was obviously the Greeks that brought the intelligent, of course, wasn't it? And that including the Romans as well. So that then created something quite special. And then we only waited about a couple of hundred years to solidify who we were. And all those different nations that came in and fucked us, the British then went out and fucked everybody else and did it in quite a unique way. So what I'm trying to get to at this point is, well, let's have a look at what sort of recruit we've got here, what sort of young man we've got. They are used to being in conflicts. It's within their general, you know. So it's not unusual to sort of think, well, what is that turning point? What makes it click? Because we'll always be tribal in our movement that we've got now. We're tribal with it, and we look after our own. It was the same, I suppose, in between conflicts with football hooliganism in the 1970s and the 80s. They wanted to be part of a tribe, and they've got that young aggression. As a young man, you know, is expected to have. Got them hormones racing about. You got to do something with it. So that's why you've seen examples of that. And it's the same with young guys joining the military. It needs to be channeled somewhere.
Yeah. No, there's definitely a big subject to talk about there. It's interesting. But anyway, let's get back to your story. So you've been stationed out in... Where was it? Sorry, you went out to Belfast. That was your first.
Yeah, I mean, I was doing tours before that, training exercise tours. So I've been out to Norway, which was the first tour that I did. After that, it was Canada with a course in Germany, a medics course in Germany, and then we went to West Belfast as an operational tour, and then we did jungle training. So I'm trained in all sort of...
I was going to ask you that. So, you know, when you're going on all these different tours and places, are you continually learning like new skills, new trade, or like, because some people come out to the like forces with like a trading on, and mechanics and all this kind of stuff. Yeah. So would you learn nothing?
No, I didn't learn a trade.
Oh, you didn't learn a trade, but you were learning all different skills.
Yeah, and I smile when I say that, because you know the trade that you learn, I suppose, is how to operate in hostile environments. I suppose. I'm not going to sort of say the cliche of I learned how to kill it, because that's ridiculous. But you have continuation training, so the skills that you already know, and then reiterated and improved on. But I did sort of learn a lot more new skills, a lot of courses. For instance, I was trained as a trauma medic, platoon medic rather, within my unit, and that then became utilised in the jungle.
I was going to say, did you have to use it?
I was then platoon medic at that point. Another course I was given was a survival course with resistance to interrogation. So that was a 3-week course, week-long of lessons, and then about a week and a half, and then 10 days escape and evasion. So lots of great, fantastic courses. And
I can imagine them being very intense courses, because obviously they'd have to put you under the same conditions of what you might expect to happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you was caught or these kind of things.
That was another course. I mean, it was an international course. It was funded and operated by Special Forces, both in the UK, the US, and Germany. And I think it's 34 guys that started on that, and I think about 10 of us finished on that particular course. Wow. So that was the second hardest thing that I did, apart from joining the Paras, because it was a tough course. That's another story in itself, just that course, and that was a slim fast.
So is this the people who are on the path to be an SAS or whatever, do they have to sort of bit by bit learn all these courses,
it's preferential.
And then obviously then I can imagine they must have to go on and learn, I don't know, even more.
You could apply to go for the SAS selection course from any unit in the British military.
Right. Okay.
Right. So it's a volunteer sort of course, you know. Whether you're going to be successful or not is another question.
Right.
But if you can arrive at the SAS selection course with all this knowledge and physical fitness, you stand in better chance.
Yeah.
But it's not a requirement, you can can just take your chances and give it a go.
I was a friend of mine was in the forces, and I had a story from him that I think he was in Iraq at the time, and there was a point where he had an awakening of some description during the period when he was on within Iraq, and it was like almost a sort of a realization he was doing a job for the wrong reasons. Did anything like that happen for you during your time?
Not in the military, no. I mean, don't get me wrong, you know, it's always a question that people find interesting is when did you become a little bit more awake or certainly aware of your surroundings? I suppose for myself, I always knew there was something a little bit wrong in the world.
Did you?
Yeah, always.
Even when you're doing battle, if you like, with other nationals, other countries.
Well, I didn't go into battle.
That's right. Okay.
So I think from an early age, you know, I would always say from my own awakening journey, it was on a slow burner. I always knew that there was certainly corruption in the world, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But and you're on a certain journey to some degree, I suppose, and it sort of would a right sort of phrase of that be what derails you or what takes you on a different line? I'm not really sort of too sure of that, but I certainly kept on what I was wanting to do.
Yeah.
You know, that sort of predestined journey was going to be there. So maybe it needed to happen. Maybe I needed to do that military service.
You know, when you
and then go on to be a close protection officer some years later.
Right.
So maybe those skills and drills were required to get to this point now.
Right, okay.
Because it's
part of your journey, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there was a certain point where a massive red flag. It didn't change on the course that I was doing, but it certainly made me a little bit more aware. And that would have been in 2007 when I was presented with a movie, or a documentary rather, called Loose Change.
Yeah, that was a big one for me, Loose Change.
Yeah, and I was out in Iraq at the time.
Right, okay.
I mean, I've come on to...
The fact that you were in Iraq and you were watching Loose Change, that is a big thing.
You're 9 years in there from when you signed up. No, sorry, you signed up in 96.
So, course-wise, career-wise, 96 to 2001, I served with 3 para.
So
and then from 01 to 05, there was a period where I wasn't in the military. I was sort of doing lots of other different things.
Ah, right, okay.
And then late 2005, I then became a close protection officer. So that's how it kind of went on that part.
Okay.
So I was at least 2 years in on that new role, and that's when I watched. It was quite hard hitting.
Well, it will be if you're in Iraq.
Just explain this to me because I've not heard of this.
So Loose Change, basically, it was a big one for me and my awakening.
Yeah.
It's about 9/11.
Right. Okay.
And it really sits home in terms of this what we've been told is not right. And you're like, what?
So this program's on, and we've got men, and the US have got men, and what out there fighting this battle, and then this program's on saying like, look, this is not all it's cracked up to be.
Yeah.
So how does that make people feel who are out there fighting?
Well, you have to. Again, we weren't fighting. As a close protection officer out there, you know, we were there. We were actually working for them. We were working for the US Corps of Engineers as part of the reconstruction effort. This is why hopefully we'll talk about the template and what's going to probably happen in Ukraine.
Yeah.
As a totally 100% almost subcontracted conflict, you might say. How did it make me feel? I was there for my own personal reasons as a close protection officer, and I wouldn't say it derailed on what I was doing, but it sort of made me pay a lot more close attention to the way the world was going in particular. See, what you have to remember is that you know, places like Iraq has been a long time in its preparation. You know, these people that are planning all this are decades in advance. You know,
because there was Iraq, Kuwait, Iraq, Iran. There's been a few, and they're all in that same Middle East area.
And they've had the targets around the Middle East for a long time, haven't they? To destabilise and to because the petrodollar plays a big.
Was
part
it just a coincidence that none of them would accept the US dollar, or is that just is that just me?
It's always a coincidence.
I think as soon as you stop trading in the petrodollar, it's a declaration of war on America. And Gaddafi, obviously.
Gaddafi was the big one for that, wasn't he?
Yeah, so the effects of of that in particular. But yeah, I mean, it changed things on my perspective of how the world was working. I mean, I suppose to some degree, I suspected I was correct in what my assumptions were on what the reason for that. But it didn't change for selfish reasons. It didn't change me,
right?
Because I was there. For a number of reasons, really, and I was going to continue on that course. I think you need to find a balance to some degree on your own sort of person.
I was just trying to think, because listen, it's obvious meeting you. Like you're an educated fella, and I can imagine the fellas out there would have been level-headed, strong-minded, educated fellas, right? And women, I dare say. But conversations must take place, even in places like that. You're all having dinner, you're all sharing camp beds and whatever else, right? Conversation must happen. And I'm wondering, do them kind of conversations ever happen? Does anyone ever say, like, this is wrong, this, or I'm not in for this, or like you said, do people just have their own reasons and say, look, I'm here to do a job? I don't know.
I suppose to some degree it would depend. It would depend on how much of a sort of Puritan lifestyle you're going to go for. We all have to some degree submit on how we live our lives. Everything from using our credit card. We're not supporting cash is king, and we're not doing things like that.
Okay.
It's where you need to be at that point in your life and what your goals are. All right. I try to encourage people to, as much as they can, to unplug from the matrix where possible. If it's not bringing food on the table, this movement is a wonderful, wonderful thing. However, it's not bringing food on the table.
You've got to be realistic as well.
You've got to be realistic.
Yeah, you've got to have that balance.
You've got to do. It's because, as an individual and looking after your family, that is priority.
I think so. And I think that comes back to full circle when you're saying about the tribal and inside us, our DNA. I think you first and foremost is to provide for your family and your friends, and it's protect and it's to put food on the table and all the rest of it. There has to be, like you said as well, you're doing it for the man next to you rather than the allegiance to anything else, which I've always thought that's probably more likely. Do you know what I mean? I'm not saying there isn't.
Well, it's that disassociation, isn't it? It's a disassociation between the monarchy and the military. Yes, that the Queen is Commander-in-Chief of the army, but when would you ever get to meet her? When would you actually, it's not a personal thing. So that's why it does reside itself into your mucker who's sat next to you.
Yeah.
And you would have created bonded relationships from that time as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, especially. I mean, I think through any adversity, you can have a stronger bond. I think with the times that we've gone through together, we've been the protests, we've been at the events, and we've gone through that. People in the movement have gone through the same things of. Going to the supermarket, having face-to-face arguments, stand-up arguments with these people because you wouldn't wear a mask, speaking to random people about vaccinations. It just goes on and on, doesn't it? And we put ourselves out there. That unifying common denominator of freedom is extremely important, and that's what bonded us. It was that right. I mean, you might have different within the movement. You might have sort of different left and right factions to some degree.
There's different angles where people get to that point.
But we all revert back to freedom.
I agree. I always said that at the Crown. It was you see people come in with different fractions and different arguments, and there was arguments. There was loads of it, and I was saying, look, guys, really, we're on the same page here. Let's find a solution to it. Let's stop arguing.
There's sort of no right or wrong, is there? It's like that does talk about.
If you keep reverting back to why we all started, why it became. For me personally, it was about civil liberties. Now, I love travel. I've been to 38 different countries. It's part of...
And why should you stop?
Yeah, why should I stop? Because of some flu. That's what it was, we know this. So it was... I suppose to some degree, circular conversation, as I said before, is when did that awakening happen? More recently, I suppose. It was the start of... Because by the time I finished out in Iraq, and I'd done what I needed to do there, which was 2017, and then went out to live in Switzerland. And it was again a bit of time to reflect really on what I'd done in my career, and I think at that point I kind of realised that everything that I'd ever done was for me personally, and that's not a bad thing. But I suppose it was then I started to realise, I thought, maybe the next sort of role I can give something back a little bit. I came back from Switzerland, came back to the UK, took up some security contracts, and then eventually then went on to the last role that I did, which was a project security manager. Again, that was something for myself, and give 100% on that. But even more, we're sort of gathering a little bit of pace with this of where the globally we're going economically and politically with it. Yeah, it wasn't just COVID that was the red flag. Yeah, it was incidents that were building up to that.
So you would, by this point, you were starting to piece a few things together and take a bit more notice than you might have.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And just so throughout the military career and everything else, was the wife and kids and all that kind of stuff, or?
Yeah, so when I left the military in 2001, a couple of years, I think, after that, because I went out to Australia and went walkabout and travelled and got lost a little bit. Yeah, hitchhiked across Australia.
Just fantastic experience.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, that's where I was in 9/11. So in 9/11, I was out in the Australian outback, in the middle of nowhere, on the piss with these Aussies, and that's when saw it on the news, the jet going in, and that's when a lot of thought. At the time, I thought that was World War III.
Yeah.
That's the first thought that I had.
Yeah.
And it was correct.
Without,
and it was always predicted.
To lots of people.
Yeah, and it was in the prediction where our shot wouldn't need to be fired for World War III, and they're correct. They're absolutely was correct on that. Yeah, because despite what's happening in the Ukraine at the moment, the war has already started.
So you think 9/11 was actually the trigger for something big, much what's been simmering big?
I think 9/11 was probably an indicator on how powerful propaganda could be used. Mm-hmm. You see, you have to have the consent of the people. Right. No matter what sort of propaganda machine that you have, it still needs to bring the people on board. Yeah. This is why situations like Iran failed. America was trying to push and demonize Iran for many, many years. And even with the sanctions that they imposed on them, it's still not worked.
Yeah,
because Iran retaliated in the playground. Iran became friends with Russia and China. So again, moving away from that petrodollar, safeguarded their future purely because of China and Russia. They're the bigger boys in the playground now.
Interesting.
So interesting. So 9/11 happened, and it seems to. I mean, what's happened is over the last few years, so COVID has woken up a whole new batch of people, like people you would not expect to start thinking a certain way, are now thinking a certain way, right? But 9/11 had this same effect, didn't it, to a lot of people?
And it's a funny thing for me. 9/11 was a big one. I was drawn in hook, line, and sinker with 9/11. I've been to New York the year previous. I'd been up the towers. I'd flown around the helicopter. Then they came down. I'd already booked for 2 weeks in Christmas and New Year. So I was really emotionally attached. And I remember when they came down, and I was watching Sky News that night, and I think they went to Afghanistan that night and started bombing Afghanistan. And I'm like, come on, lads. That I was drawn.
And I think we were all guilty of that. You're seeing the men, you're seeing the planes.
Loose change. When I watched Loose Change, I remember going, what the fuck? And I went to my mum and I went, Mum, this 9/11 thing, it weren't what we think, inside job. Why would they do that?
And a lot of people still think.
But that's still the question. A lot of people still do that. But why would they do that? And
so
Patriot Act was the start, weren't it?
Yeah, and I think the way it was engineered, you can be forgiven on feeling that. My emotion side of it was that there must be reasons why these terrorists went there and did it. There must be recourse on that if things was to change. Whether that was to go to Afghanistan and bomb the shit out of them, I don't think that was going to be the best solution. And that's probably because of what I thought of Northern Ireland. You know, occupation by a foreign force will always cause problems in the home country, that's for sure. So I wasn't always fully on board with being British, you might say.
Yeah.
Even though I'm very proud of that.
Yeah.
There is problems we've caused
100%.
over many years.
Centuries.
India and Pakistan, for instance. I mean, what an absolute massacre that was when we pulled out of there. It was terrible. So, you know, we must be have some sort of accountability with that. And again, that, you know, template of thought for myself was for 9/11 and what happened there, even though I was very patriotic and thinking, yeah, I see the reason to go and bomb the shit out of them and find Al-Qaeda. But on the same respect, I knew something was sort of a little bit different.
You knew,
Something sort of cataclysmic on that was extreme terrorism. Now, the IRA, of course, were the most professional terrorist unit in the world. They trained other people. But this was on another level, an absolute another level. And it was then understandable why their operations then pursued people like Al-Qaeda. But it was weak in its foundation. So, but I give it, time and effort, I suppose, and thought on it. But that's about it. But again, watching loose change and looking at all those hard-hitting facts or assumed facts we at the time, I was thinking, well, hang on a minute, this is a lot of information, and I encourage yourself and everybody else out there to.
I think Loose Change is definitely one to watch. It is.
So does your way of thinking now sort of make you almost want to find out what your other fellow parachute, your mates who are in the service, like, are you asking them questions? How are you thinking, lads? What are you thinking about this, or is it an individual thing? Or
well, at the weekend I was out on Saturday night with a friend of mine who works out in the Middle East. He had a very similar sort of background to what I have career-wise. He's starting to wake up now and understand that I'm not just a tinfoil hat wearer. Loyal to the foil. I like that.
Loyal to the foil, yeah.
I'm loving that. I heard that the other day. So I'm loving that. And he's, a lot of friends. I mean, I've been very fortunate that I've not lost too many friends in all this. There's only about one or two that I don't really speak to anymore because they were very in opposition to what my thoughts were, rather than respecting my views and understanding where I was coming from. Yeah. So that's certainly not been the case for a lot of people in the movement. They've lost family and friends in a very dramatic sort of fashion as well. So these people that have understood how I started noticing that from the early on, started noticing the red flags to then being a lot more active, have seen me along this journey and see how things have changed, but they always respected on who I was. And, I don't suffer fools gladly, that's for sure. No. So as things have developed and there's been predictions that have been offered to my close friends and family, then they've understood that these predictions have now become reality. Yeah.
So just going back to so 9/11, and obviously you're starting to notice like sort of red flags, but that's very much on a sort of a human level, if you like, or a human brain, like looking at the facts and situations. In your awakening, and I don't know if you have, are you having any sort of from a spiritual aspect at this point, or is that not something you was so like the young lad who did the 9/11 documentary and then obviously he went missing, didn't he? So obviously he started piecing together a lot of these red flags and everything, didn't he? And he started so then he got into like synchronicity. He started getting into like, look, this is even deeper. This is what people have a perception of, it's this deep, or it's the government, if you like. It's so much deeper. It's like 10 levels deeper than that, right? So, you know what I mean? So, and this is what I was thinking. So, like, when you were sort of like the little triggers and the red flags was you getting any sort of like spiritual awakening as well, or was it just a more of a
good question? I think I've always been spiritual,
right? Okay.
It's just that I don't put it about.
Okay.
I don't think there's a need to at my point. I keep certain close friends have known what sort of spiritual experiences that I've seen over the years, and I'm very comfortable with it. I know what's on the other side.
Yeah, good.
So that's not what I'm here to do, is talk about the woo-woo. I love the woo, and I say...
We haven't had the carry on, plenty of woo-woo going on.
Lots of woo-woo there, and I say that with much affection. Charlie Cavell wouldn't let me change the name to the Healing Land to the woo-woo land. He said no. I went, come on, it sounds good. He said no. And they are an absolutely integral part of what we're doing at Carry On. You must have that balance. For myself personally, I don't think what I need to be doing... I'm there to do logistics. I'm there to do to have. How can I put this? How can I put this without sounding sort of in any way?
No, it sounds like you've got your it sounds like you've got your foundation role, if you like.
Yeah,
your set of logistics and your and to be fair, we get this. People come in and they say, "Look, this is my role in this journey." If we look at it from a bigger perspective, if you like, we're all little cogs in this bigger whatever's happening.
We're all uniquely beautiful and brilliant in it as well.
But I think it's really fantastic, like, to have that where you feel, look, I understand what my role is here.
Yeah.
That's quite powerful, because I wouldn't know that.
You get a lot of peace from that.
That's what I'm going to say. I think there's a lot in saying, do you know what? I understand my role here and I'm quite happy with this.
Be good at it.
And be good, to be the best you can at it. I like that.
I think my role sort of, I suppose, fundamentally was what I suppose it's been more galvanised now, would be to connect.
Definitely, without doubt.
Yeah, I think that I get quite a lot of satisfaction from connecting people, and it'll be sometimes the most random sort of occasions. Do you know, it was on 2 weeks ago, do you know a circuit board electrician? I went, actually, yes.
You do?
So connected these two people. Or it'll be something much more on a bigger scale. Do you know a location where we can have this sort of gatherings, or do you know a person that can facilitate this, or so that's what I get out of it. And that certainly wasn't the start of it, neither the start of Carry On Camping. And if you want to ask me about that, I'm more than happy. I never shut up about Carry On Camping.
Well, do you know what? Well, the thing is, the Carry On Camping is going to be massive, and so we need to come on to that. But what I like is, like, so when you're growing up and you're going through all these things, like you're joining the paratroopers and you're learning your skills, the thing is, as a young man and growing up, you would never have realised the importance of why you needed to learn these skills.
You won't.
So, like, when you're in your early 20s, you probably, if someone would have said to you, do you realise, Tim, all this is going to set the foundations for what's to come? You know what I mean?
Absolutely. I think in the leadership roles that I've had over the years, in particular, I almost think that the project security manager role that I had, a project level organisation, was needed to do festivals.
Yeah, right.
Absolutely, that gave me the skills to spin many plates. Yeah. And I get enjoyment out of that, just like being the boss. Yeah. But those skills were needed.
Yeah, definitely. Anyone who's run any business is it's difficult.
You could almost sort of say every element of Carry On Camping. On the skills, the bushcraft, I've got knowledge of survival. The spiritual side is more personal, not really career based on that. But then again, on the career side of what I saw, military wise, seeing. I remember in 1999 in Kosovo, we were transporting a body from one place to the next, from an incident to the morgue. There was a guy there that was on this slab thing, and he was not it looked like he'd not died in a very good way at all. But I knew then, that was the first dead body that I ever saw. I knew then that this is just a shell. Because there was nothing there. There was no aura around it.
Nothing there.
Yeah. Now, I've always had the capability of knowing, of going into a room and seeing what sort of dynamics people have. And that's something that I've always picked up on, and I've been very appreciative to be able to do that.
I remember when you came to Crown, when we met for the first time, and I think, because I think you're a kind of person who is gonna scrutinise individuals.
Absolutely.
So you came into the pub now in the height of the nonsense, and I'd never met Tim before. And one of the things I remember Tim getting on the phone. Yeah, he's spot on. It's right, this place. Great, you want to get down here. So you were quite quick at going, yeah, he's an all right guy, he's honest, and we can work with this.
Yeah.
And I got that impression straight away.
I think you need to have that sort of capability, or at least learn how to have that capability to do that. Because, I think I'm not a Puritan. I'm certainly not without error. And I'm certainly not lead a Puritan, like that for sure. But I think if we're going to do this and continue what we're doing, you need to have your moral compass in the right direction. Now, it's not as if I go through a witch hunt of people, but I do scrutinise people.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
You've got to protect yourself as well.
Absolutely. We're protecting the people, really, and that's why I do the carry-on camping in certain ways that I do, is that we get the right people there.
Yeah.
So, going back to your question, I think there was always the skill sets being learned throughout my career that has culminated to what we're doing now.
So just quickly going back to, obviously you seen your first dead body and you could tell it was just a shell. So I take from that, would you say that's then part of your own spirituality, if you like? Would you sense an energy or an aura around someone or something like that?
I think it's a tough one to try and explain, really.
Is it?
Knowing there's life?
Yeah.
Yeah, so, I suppose if you've let's be honest, most people have probably never seen it. Do you know what I mean? Unless you've seen like a motor accident.
I would say, because what I tend to do is look at, positives from any dire situation. I would say at that point, it reinforced, I suppose, what my belief was on our spiritual side,
right?
Because I knew there was no spiritual sort of entity there in the
vessel.
Yeah. And you could fast forward when the old man died. I was happy for him to cross over. Yeah, because he had cancer at the time, and I knew when I went into that room when my mum rung me up, crying on the phone, you better come, and I knew when I went into the living room that he was all around. So
wow,
yeah. So
that's profound.
Yeah.
And I think there's peace in that, knowing like, look, you need to move on here. You don't want to see your loved ones suffering and in pain.
It's dignity, especially for men.
My old man was like that.
Yeah, so he suffered with cancer, and it was right time for him to sort of move on. So I'm quite confident in who we are within ourselves, and say, and where we're going, where we need to be. That was the spiritual side anyway, and which I don't like to talk about too much.
No, that's fine. I will try and pick your brains on it because I love it. But that's the difference between me and Critch. Obviously, he went on his journey, which took him on the old truth, corruption, and that kind of stuff. Whereas my man took me on a whole different path. It was all very woo. Yeah, my path was all woo, and then obviously it was too much for me, and I come away from it all. And
what you've got, what you kind of touched on a little bit there is the depths of that rabbit hole. Yeah. Yes, we've all been down it, and what I try and sort of say to people is not only go so far down, what you're willing to accept. Head down, arse up down that rabbit hole is going to change you, and there's no going back. I think we all recognise that.
100%.
However, I think take what's relevant. Some people who go to the very depths of like the reptilians and the flat earthers and all things like that, which is novel to me. Don't get me wrong, there's plenty of flat earthers out there. For me, I think that information on flat earth is irrelevant. I respect it, and we're going to have a healthy debate on it on the next carry-on. Well, actually, it might be August now we're going to do that healthy debate. But for me personally, I say, well, take what's relevant and take what's going to progress you forward. This is why carry-on, it's all progressive. I'm not interested in talking about Hollywood satanic symbolism.
Yeah, it's a bit...
I think that's 6,000
to their own, isn't it?
To their own.
If it's not relevant to you, then you don't need that energy, do you? You just focus on what
I often think that when people sort of... I get... If you have an interest in something, because that's where it all starts from.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Like people, like 9/11. Yeah. People would have. People went down rabbit holes with that, and they were whoa. Now let's be honest. Most of them might have been right, and you know what I mean. But you can also end up in a very dangerous place, because then that opens up all the other stuff.
Well, it does.
Like all
does.
these different organisations, all these different cults. You start getting into the Masonic stuff. You start getting into MK Ultra. You start whatever.
All of it.
And before you know it, you're in a world of
You're
like,
peeling an
what
onion.
the fuck? And also, then you have to. My argument would be is like, but what are you trying to gain from it? Because the only thing I see that you're going to gain from it is going to fuck your head up for a start. Do you know what I mean? So, and also, does that push you forward in what we need to achieve now? Do you know what I mean?
No.
And that's the. Do you know what I mean?
There's only certain sort of positives that you can benefit from with going down that rabbit hole. Is the awakening itself and being a lot more understanding of what information is out there. If it can then connect you to other like-minded people, good. That's another positive.
I think you've got to be careful with it though. I'm interested and fascinated, and I've been down many rabbit holes. But when you start allowing that knowledge and energy to affect you mentally and emotionally, you have to then have a cut off. I know what's going on, and I can't. I'm not going to be able to personally change the satanic child shit that's going on in this world. I can't. I can't allow it to affect me either, because otherwise I'll be ill.
I think when you've learned a certain level of information, it's healthy to know, look, it's there, it exists, we have to accept it and understand its role that it might be playing in something else. But then ultimately it's like, well, what are we doing and what are we doing to push forward and create?
But we have to raise vibration.
Exactly.
We're here to raise vibration. We can't. What are we going to do?
Yeah. Well, if you spend more time creating love and light and less time rabbit holes in the dark, if you like, then surely that's better.
Of course
I
it
don't
is.
know. Anyway.
I think take the relevant information from that rabbit hole, if that will then give you a preparation for what's coming
And
next.
that's important as
and
well.
take that.
Yeah.
But reptilians is not going to serve you in any sort of way. Please, answers on a postcard. If it will benefit you, but it just won't. Get your boots on the ground, get growing, get connected, and you'd be in a much better stead.
So let's just quickly go back to the forward again. So 9/11's happened, red flags, got you interested or got you thinking, blah, blah, blah. Did that send you on a sort of path then of your own like rabbit holes and wanting to know stuff?
I would say, we're going back to 2007 when I watched Loose Change. Yeah.
Oh, so that was the start for you? Was that?
I would say probably a significant turning point. It didn't change me on what I was doing career-wise, but it would be allow me to be a bit more privy on that sort of information. It was a turning point, that's for sure. Like I say, it didn't change on what I was doing career-wise.
Yeah. But did it make you look into anything else apart from that subject, or because sometimes people like the 9/11, then suddenly they want to go look at everything, don't they? The monarchy, it could be the monarchy, it could be the Vatican, it could be Washington, it could be whatever.
I suppose JFK. I looked more into that.
Yeah.
It wasn't just the guy on the grassy knoll, was it?
We did a good 2-3 hour thing on that not that long ago.
Yeah, there's a lot more to all
JFK.
that, isn't there?
Yeah. So I suppose it did.
Yeah, the moon landed.
I mean, the thing is, as well, again, I thought that was irrelevant anyway. But
the lies are thingy though. If there's a lie, then they're taking away your power, aren't they?
No, because also as well. So like again, so when people start going down rabbit holes like 9/11, so a lot of people then start going further back, and they go back to the war. And then like World War I, World War II, and then they start bringing in all everything connected with that, and because obviously everything went different directions after the war. Lots of things were advanced, and lots of things were bought in. Whether that's frequencies of music, propaganda on telly, the whole propaganda machine come out of the world wars, didn't it? It was the power of propaganda.
Like you touched on yourself in terms of 9/11, the fact that propaganda was able to change the world. Like that.
Well, yeah, I mean, and obviously, even back in the day, so Hitler must have had his own propaganda machine to make the German people believe in his vision. That's a big. Do you know what I mean?
We had our own propaganda machine, obviously, going around that time as well. Because we used to go to the cinemas to watch the news, didn't we? So you're only going to be told what they do.
Without doubt, and that's what I said. So like, and don't get me wrong, it's interesting, but again, it depends how you. Because obviously, then with the war, then obviously you got Pearl Harbor, and it's like, well, who actually did that? And I think there's a certain US submarine. I forgot the name of it. There's a famous like submarine that got blew up, and it's like, well, who really blew up that? there's all different stuff. But then the same in Ukraine now, a similar thing, but fast forward.
Exactly.
You got this, is it I forgot the name of it, but basically it's a massive pipeline. And they're trying to say the Russians blew it.
Nord Stream 2.
Yeah. And the Russians are saying, look, we never blew that up. Now, has that been done purposely to create, again, the propaganda? And you know what I mean?
Well, they almost said that it would happen. Didn't they, the Americans in their press releases. It was absolute farcical.
Pretty much announced it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So again, that propaganda machine, I mean, originally, I suppose, to some degree, comes from what the Nazis, and it was Goebbels who pioneered that. That's a German machine. It's a German word in propaganda. And it's been sort of pioneered by the British and the Americans in particular on how to do it correctly through fear. Of course, I think it was Goebbels said something about fear. Yeah. You can't win nations through love.
And
through fear.
That's right.
And this is the thing. So, like, I know, obviously, it plays its role because obviously it is interesting as well. Because then we know the fear goes into Hollywood, and it goes into films, and it goes into adverts, and it goes into
everywhere.
And let's be honest, it goes into false flag operations, and certain things might have not actually happened, and then it goes into media, and like so, your reporters on the news now are just actors. They're not journalists. They're just shills, aren't they? Do you know what I mean? Pumping out the propaganda machine. Yep. So. But anyway, so I have a place for if people really are interested in it, because it is interesting. But then also you have to take a step back and say, but where's it getting us? You know, sometimes we just have to accept it that it's happening. But where's it going to get us?
We still need solutions, don't we? This is the thing. Like, the interest is there in it, and I'm fascinated completely, as you know. But ultimately, we've got a lot going on in the world right now, which is against the people and against the freedom of the people. And I'm always for, like, how do we navigate this? You know,
that's the important part, isn't it? Is that planning and preparation for it. You know, with what we're about to sort of face over the next couple of years in particular, with the digital currency that's coming in. There's the preparations for that.
I think there's no. I think if you speak to most people in general, even the average fella on the street who has no interest, if you like, he would say, "Oh, we do seem to be going through weird times." Like you know. I think even the average person on the street is feeling something. They are sort of, even if they don't want to admit they're waking up, they basically are saying, something, I just feel uncomfortable in myself.
It's that question, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I think that's what I would always try and sort of do. I mean, we have different ways that we'll all kind of speak to people, members of the public, the mask wearers and you know, the pro-vaxxers and things like that. I would always do it in a slightly different way. We call it sort of red pilling, don't we? I would do it in a particular way. Where I would get them to tell me the answers, you know, what's their opinion on this latest lockdown, or what's their opinion on these restrictions, and so on and so forth. And you know, we'd come almost full circle, where they would then say, well, actually, you're right, it's not, you know, there's something quite wrong going on there. And I think with this awakening that we're sort of seeing globally, it is galvanising where we're going to go in the future with it. There's still lots of work to be done, that's for sure.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Okay, so let's get down to you've took on some security work. Obviously, your mind's been opened and you're thinking outside the box about many things. But at what point do you decide now, or what was it? What happened where you thought, I'm going to do something, or I'm going to put something together? Or
well, I suppose you know, when the red flags were happening, as I was exiting, ramping down, should we say, probably a better word, the project security manager role. This was in the October of 2020, wasn't it? Yeah, the end of 2020, and then you know the first week. Part of the propaganda was some Italian in the Wuhan province, and that was a red flag for me. Right, it was extremely weak in the start of it. So then I started going to the Ricky and Ross parties, which was parties that were happening in Manchester, and surrounded there was people that were quite active in what they were doing for the people.
Oh, so was this people who were sort of straight away from day one thought something's not right here? like activists,
Well,
if you like.
I would say that there were individuals there that were questioning the narrative for a lot longer than that.
Yeah.
Daz Nez has been at this for many years.
Right. Okay.
So he's had a great understanding of what direction globally we're going in, and he's been very vocal on that, and quite rightly as well. There's probably newbies there like myself.
Yeah. I was going to say, so like, to be honest, like we're only in 2023 now, so this is only a few years ago, so this is quite really fresh for you, for you to go. And that's what I'm saying. So you started waking up, obviously, September 11th and all that kind of stuff, but then the pandemic's happened, and then this is where you've really come into your own.
And I think it was probably needed at that. It was happened at the right time, I suppose, for individuals. And I suppose we're always intrigued, aren't we, of when that awakening happened. And I'm always intrigued by people's answers. I spoke to somebody a few weeks ago, and they've just been away for 6 months.
We used to get it at the pub all the time, especially the older generations as well, who were coming.
Like they never. But for myself, it was. We were there at the Ricky and Ross parties, and much respect for them for doing what they were doing. I was surrounded by all these people, and I thought, right, okay, what's my role in this? And I thought, well, I don't agree with the lockdowns. I think it's inhumane to be putting people in these positions. I wasn't following them, and I then decided that I'd do some awakened hiking. So I was taking people out, So then it was thought, right, so who's up for this? Who wants to come out? Let's get out on the hills, get some fresh air in you, and get back to nature. And that's the important part. Yeah. So then it was like, we started doing those, and about 20 or 30 of us on occasions, and it was just fantastic. And that's where I thought, right, okay, I'm happy with the way this is going, and it's a fantastic story how it all happened.
Well, tell us, go on.
And so we were going back to the parties, and we're enjoying that connection, and having a great time. I mean, it was like the best time for us in lockdown. We loved it. And it was brilliant. And I thought, right, okay, who wants... a couple of people said, do you fancy a bit of camping? And this was a suggestion put towards me. And I thought, right, okay then. I'm just building my bike garage at the time, now because I'm a biker as well. I thought, I'll just get that finished. And again, it's all timing, and this is where the instincts, I'll talk more about that in a bit, the instincts with everything. And I thought, right, I'll just finish the bike garage off first, get that built, and then we'll look into it. And then from that, I thought, right, now's the time to ring up Brent Holloway, who's up in Cumbria. And I rang him up and said, right, Brent, we're looking for a bit of camping. Find for me, please, an awake-type farmer, landowner. And a couple of weeks later, he found somebody. So I thought, right, okay, when does he want to meet? He said, a couple of days. Brilliant, I'll be straight up there. So I went straight up there, went up to Cumbria, found this land. Me and Brent were looking at each other and thinking, yeah, we like this, we can do something here. And again, this was only an idea of about 20 of us to have a bit of a camping weekend on the bus, And the more interest it grew, the more sort of a little bit of infrastructure that I put in there. Because I thought, right, okay, there's now 50 of us that want to go.
So like friends telling friends.
Yeah, word of mouth. And I thought, right, I better get a little marquee, just for inclement weather, something like that. And then and I thought, right, well, let's get a couple of port cabins, so they're not, portaloos, so they're not shitting in the woods and what have you. A bit of order in there. And then we started going back to the parties again, and then more people said, well, actually, we could do a stall here, or we'd like to play at this little gathering that you've got going here, and it just started growing and growing, and that was all done within 6 weeks. By the time we got from 20 people being interested, we then got to the first one in the June, about 15, I think it was. We had over 200 people there.
Wow.
Yeah. So it grew quite quickly.
And were these predominantly or all people who
all
were...
truthers.
All
like-minded souls. Every last one of them.
Yeah.
Because they, I'd go back to the party, say, right, we're going to do this, and this is happening, and they'd tell their friends, and we'd all be in the same circle. Yeah. So it's always the right people there. and that would be so that was the June. We had over 200 there, and then.
Can I just ask you? So you had this party in a field, if you like. Did you have any problems? Any resistance? Did anybody say "What the fuck are all these people doing?"
I was visited by the local police, and they were very accommodating. There was any real resistance from there. I did formally sort of introduce myself to them, give them a little bit of background on who I were, and that was to sort of create some sort of liaison.
But it carries a lot of weight, doesn't it?
Yeah,
a bit of
so.
respect,
I didn't want them sort of thinking that I was just some Joe Schmo off the street who was taking his chances. This was me doing some good there.
Yeah.
I actually escorted them round at one point, and they were more than happy with that. And then I had a phone call from the local council in Cumbria, and I think he was more sort of concerned with just licensing and things like that, which we never sort of encroached onto because we don't have a bar there or anything like that. And that was about it. I've never really had any sort of trouble from either the police or local authorities. I've always sort of been within my own sort of remit of what the festival is all about. And it created a lot of good.
So this first one where there's 200 people, was that predominantly just sitting around having a good chat?
Well, even early on, we had the elements of what Carry On is now. So we had bushcraft, with Brent doing the bushcraft.
So you had people doing stuff?
Even early on, we had the spiritual side of it all. People doing, as a minimum, Luke Scott, for instance, he was there at number one, doing the meditation stuff, and with people doing a bit of things with the gongs, and breath work was even happening at that point as well. Stalls were there. We had bouncy castles. So it was always, the focus was always on the kids, So bouncy castles were always there, and I was doing old school kids sports day, every spoon race and things like that. Brilliant, 100-metre dash and wheelbarrows and three-legged race, and so it's grassroots, and that's where we'll keep carry on at that sort of level, and it works, There's it's almost like it's kind of grown into, it's still grassroots, and that's where we'll keep it, but almost like a summer fate, almost like a school.
I was going to say that kind of feeling,
but now much quite a little bit bigger than a summer fate, I suppose. But it was the enjoyment that I knew it was the right thing to do, because always at the festival when I'm on my own, either on a Saturday afternoon or Sunday afternoon, I'll always take a moment to look back at the festival, and it's worked. It's what I've done is worked, or it's working. So there'll always be some point in the festival where I'll take a bit of a moment.
It's very important to enjoy those moments, though, because you work very, very hard. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, and I had that first moment like that on the late Saturday afternoon, because there was people there laying down on the grass and having a drink of wine or just relaxing. Kids were playing on happy and playing on the bouncy castle, or having the face painted and all things like that. Bushcraft went well, and the music's going, and and I thought this is a good thing that we're doing it. And it's not me that does it. I can sort of take a little bit of my own sort of pride by the organisation for it. But what was important from day one on that first festival was the contributors. So it's not me that does Carry On. I organise it all and do all things like that, but it's everybody that comes towards it.
Do you think it was the energy was so positive and it was so successful, if you like, because it was so natural?
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you know what I mean?
People wanted to be there. One, because it was with like-minded souls. The contributors wanted to be there because they want to give something to the people. This is why I have many, many conversations with different people, be it the stall holders, the musicians, the guys in the healing land. Individually, I'll speak to every single one to see what their intentions are. And generally, they're very good. And if I don't think they're any good, then we don't have them there. Simple as that. But keep getting gifted with many wonderful people that want to contribute to Carry On. And I think if I can keep emulating all the good that we do, we'll continue.
You are raising vibration, Tim, that's the thing. And it's bringing people together.
Yeah, and I think like I say, just going back to that moment, it was that point in June where I look back and think, all right then, we'll do another one of these. Yeah, they called for it as well. Yeah. So it wasn't just me. It's like they obviously felt that as well. And I thought, right, August Bank Holiday weekend, we'll do it again.
And who decided on the Carry On camping name?
Well, we think.
I love it because it makes me think. Remember, it makes me think of the Carry On film, Carry On camping.
We were there. There was a few of us around. It was me, Brent, Damo, Drew was there, and we're having a bit of a chit chat about it. And I said, we need to call this something. I think I'm reasonably good at creating things, but I'm not good at naming things. So we had some cliche things. We had like a freedom camp or new camp, new. I don't know, but it just weren't working. And I think it was Brent. It was you, Brent, wasn't it? And he said, let's call it Carry On Camping. And I went, and we laughed and we smiled. And I think that was the best reaction, really. Yeah. And I went, all right then, let's call it that. Yeah. So we just went for that. Because it does make people smile, like, you know.
Yeah. Well, it conjures up things. I mean, you mentioned it to me, and straight away it conjures up a Volkswagen Beetle camper van, and it conjures up, you know, the Carry On film where they're in a field, when they're on. I just reckon that. I mean, everybody. That's what it conjures up to me. Yeah. It conjures up that freedom and also that being
innocence.
Free, innocence. I like that, and everybody it'll conjure up something different to them, but that's what it conjures up to me, and I just love that. It's like
there's loads of Sid James characters there as well.
Matron. All the rest of it, quality. But so was it a 2-day event? The first one,
3 days. The first one always 3 days. The Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then we tend to go for the wrap up on the Monday. It can sometimes go on a little bit longer, depending on the landowner, because people are trying to kind of want to stay a little bit longer.
Yeah, they do. They love it.
And was everybody? Did everybody sort of chip in and help out with? Because like cleaning up and you know, or did you end up being left with all that after? Or
no, we've always been quite fortunate with volunteers.
Yeah, everybody chipping in.
So even from the start, we've done pretty well. But there's always occasions where you'll see me, even now at the festival, where I'll be helping out or doing the bins or getting stuck in. Yeah. You know, I'm quite sort of hands-on with that. Yeah. And I think that's important in any sort of leadership role. You need to be shown to be leading from the front a little bit.
But you have to, because it's a big event now as well.
Yeah, because let's be honest, a lot of people, they'll turn up, they'll have a fantastic few days, but and even with all the goodwill in the world, a lot of people don't understand the amount of hard work, the endless nights of telephone conversations, dealing with people, getting everything in place, setting it all up so they can have these 3 or 4 days of...
Logistically, it's a big job.
Oh, it's...
Yeah, legit. I mean, I'm sort of... I've had to dedicate myself to it now. In particular, we're doing 4 events this year. It's a full-time job.
I can imagine.
You know, I had to make the choice early last year on, right, okay, do I go back into security or do I dedicate
Remember
myself?
you talking to me about that. Yeah.
And it was a tough decision because, you know, financially, Carry On doesn't really earn any money at the moment. No. So it's up to me now this is part of an investment, I suppose, to make it work. It has to work financially.
Well, you still got to make a living, Tim, at the end of the day.
And this, do you know what? It's a funny. I was going to ask you about this because let's be honest. You know, you're doing it all for the right intentions and everything else. But you have to play the game and you have to realise we're in this reality and things cost money. It's balance. And also like when everybody's said and done and they've had a great 3 or 4 days and gone home, you have still got to put food on the table. Do you know what I mean? And a lot of people struggle with this, especially when they're coming from... We see it with Andy Barlow, we see it with all the listicle people. They're doing it from the right reasons, but they're missing something where they have to realise, look, the big fella upstairs doesn't want you to fucking go without and struggle.
No.
At the start, I mean, thankfully I was in a sort of, a privileged sort of financial position where he didn't need to earn any money, and that was fine. I did very well out of the last sort of role that I did, so I've been able to ride out any sort of constraints from that last couple of years. You know, to some degree, it goes back to sort of this Puritan attitude that we do have in the movement, where unless you're doing it for free, you know, you have no moral standing whatsoever.
We can't live like that. Though.
Generally, it's sort of individuals. This will be a criticism to some of these individuals. Thankfully, I've only really been, on their terms, accosted on what I was doing twice ever. In the last sort of 1/3 year now, being called out as a shill. Can you believe that?
Hey, if you're not doing enough work and you've not been called a shill, you're not doing enough.
I took an accolade. Thanks very much.
I'm going to get that shill badge.
Yeah, got it. You know, and you've got some of these individuals who are sat at home who, you know, I think they could be doing a lot more than just sort of calling people out, should we say. However, anyway, going back to carry on. So it was that point, I thought, right, we'll do it again. We'll do number 2 at that point.
Yeah.
And I look back on it, and it was the right decision to do it at that right time. Right. Because people, you know, were ready for another one.
And this would have still been in the height of the pandemic, wouldn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. I remember loads of people. My pub was quiet that week. Thanks very much.
Yeah.
Top banana.
And it was, and then as I started planning that one, I had a bit longer, thankfully. Starting to get to know people. I think I'd been to yours at that point, hadn't I?
Yeah, you'd had.
Yeah, I
been,
met you, hadn't I think.
Yeah, because you came to the festival as well.
Yeah. And then more people started coming towards us. You know.
You started eyeing up things at the pub. I'll have that for the next festival. I'll have that for the next carry on.
Yeah. I thought, who's them stops?
That's it. Those stops and you
can have them. I thought, right, we'll have those. And,
before you started going off to Manchester and the first people that you met with before all this, so what was did you have much of a network of people, or
not in the Truth Movement? No.
This was quite new.
My network was very limited. I was absolutely brand new to a lot of it. Like I say, I mean, as we spoke privately before, I've been fortunate. I've not lost too many of my old friends. One or two of them I don't really speak to as much, but and that's because they're in direct opposition to what I was starting to believe in. But all my old friends, still got them. So I'm lucky in that way. Yeah. But that was a mutual respect thing, and it's sad to say that, you know, there's a lot of people in the movement who have not been as fortunate on that. They've lost close friends, family. You know, it's been you know, really dramatic for them. So I feel quite lucky in that respect, because, you know, my family members, and most of them have been vaccinated, still respected me as a person on what my views were.
Exactly, and that's all really. I think that's all what most people want. It's just that respect,
and it's the way you conduct yourself with people that have this, you know, severe sort of.
Well, I was going to get so you've gone from going to not really knowing anybody, then you've took 20-30 people on a hiking thing, which has now led to a 200 people. So your network of these people has grown very organically and very quickly. To be quite honest, that's quite a lot of people who have.
A lot of people were looking for that opportunity to come together.
You've been the spark, haven't you? You've been the spark. There
was. I mean, I think, I suppose the gatherings were only really happening at the protests, which had happened for a few hours, and then there was what Ant was doing. Again, I took inspiration from what Ant was doing. You know, there's people that was started up on this journey who was looking around at the parties, for instance. He's doing good work, or she's doing really good work, and then you must come to the Crown and look what Ant is doing. I thought, right, that's another good thing. We can start to build upon this. And I'd ask Ant for advice as I was doing these things.
That was pointless. I had no idea what the fuck I were doing.
Nah,
I've been saying the same thing for the last 3 months while he's been with me. What the fuck's he doing here? He only turns the camera on.
But absolutely, we were bluffing it, wasn't there? I mean, nobody knows. I'm still bluffing. I don't know.
It's the best way.
But the thing is, ultimately, it's almost like, I think, if you're talking spiritual, it's almost challenged. You're kind of guided through it. I was guided with the crowd.
Let's be honest, as we're sat here now, we have these chats every day. I have not got a fucking clue what this whole Drake, Michigan thing is.
Right?
And let's listen. Between us, well, between everyone who's fucking listening, we were saying I must have threw 20 grand in it already, and that's not including any other money what I've spent on stuff. I've not got a fucking clue what, apart from the fact I just know it needs to happen. So we're talking about this.
You've got something inside you going
gut
this
feeling, right? No, but I'll be on the other side of it. I'll make no excuses as I go forward when I'll be hiring the room out and making money, and if I make money but I don't give a crap whatever people think, because
you got to go for that instinct. First thing that'll always happen will be your instinct, and it's the right thing to do, and it's that moral compass that we have at Carry On, and then you'd be directed yourself on where it needs to go. It does take a bit of ingenuity. It does take a bit of balls to do these things, but it also takes finances.
It does, mate. It does massively. And unfortunately, a lot of people, and this is a cracker because it's not just in this, but in any types of business. Because I've had it what's called, like I built Atlantis. I built it from borrowing 10 quid off a fella for a paint tray, and now we're building like a £2.5-3 million flat in Blackpool, right? So so you can build something from nothing. Right, as long as you know how to do business and how to reinvest and keep pumping it in and build the right people and all the rest of it. But what you find then is that you'll get people who come along and say, "Oh, he's got lucky," right? You're like, lucky? Lucky? No, you've not seen the sacrifices. Like literally, my missus never sees me. I'm like, 7 days a week, I'll be like painting in here one time. I'll be making the cups of tea or the brew. You know what I mean?
You're the Drake bitch.
But I don't. and I like that because, like I said, I'm happy to sweep and clean the floor.
You understand what sort of time and effort is involved in
100%. You're not a daft man. Ultimately, you know how it works.
But if you want to create anything sustainable and a legacy or make it last, you've got to put that in. But ultimately, like even with the Drake Michigan, I'll before I put my head on my pillow at night, I'll say to the big fella upstairs, because that's my belief, and I'll just say, just keep sending me on the right direction, send the right people around me. I hope I'm doing it for the right reasons. Do you know what I mean?
You'll be rewarded with people. And I see people who come and join Carry On as gifts. I keep getting gifted with people. Because we were, I suppose the current sort of sweat lodge person that does it, for one reason or another couldn't do it this year. And I thought, well, if we don't get anybody else, then we won't have one. It's as simple as that. But then all of a sudden,
I've noticed that someone's come through for you.
Becky, who's put her name Green Wolf, fantastic lady. Becky, if you're watching, thank you very much for coming towards me.
I love the Sweat Lodge.
I
love it.
Amazing.
I need to do that again.
That was another game changer. So in the August, going back again to festival number 2, we then had 2 guys come along, Joe and Arachai, who did the Inipi Sweat Lodge, and that was an absolute game changer. I mean, I've done saunas before, but nothing.
Just explain this to me, because I get it. So a sweat lodge, what is it, like a sauna?
Well, it's sort of very Native American sort of even.
And do you have to build this on the site? Is it like a proper big wooden?
You have to create. So you'd have to dig a big trench, wouldn't you, a big hole, and you'd have to create this sort of like booth, if you like, with natural resources.
So it's like a wooden frame, built
wooden
out
frame.
of willow, ideally, and then that frame, capacity of about 20-25 people you can fit within that. On that wooden frame is then you put tarpaulin, and it's to actually represent from the Lakota tribe. It represents the womb and the umbilical cord. So it's a sacred fire.
You have to use particular rocks as well, don't you think?
Yeah, like lava rocks, I think it is.
Is there a sense with the Carry On campings almost like going back to our real selves, like back to Mother Nature, back to the earth, back to traditional rituals, or paganism, that kind of stuff. Is that
like a bit of paganism? Yeah. I mean, it incorporates. I mean, I certainly don't encourage space at Carry On because it's grassroots, but I think if there's an underlying sort of faith there, then it would be a little bit of paganism. But that's. I mean, paganism is everyday life, really.
Well, was it Druids and paganism and all? That's our original sort of beginning.
I think if you could bring...
they were soon removed.
Yeah.
We could go to the stories and
Tim's brought it back. I think I'm the system.
It's not something that I kind of promote. It's just what's there anyway.
Yeah.
And that's not to
I think it's natural though.
Yeah, it's not to say that we exclude any sort of faith there, by no means. We have a lot of Christians in the movement, and that's fantastic. But we also have Hindus, we have Muslims, we have lots of different.
But this is where I think as well. So like for me, you have to take away all the labels.
100%.
That's what it has to be.
That's
that
the division.
freedom.
They want labels. We don't want that. We want togetherness.
Yeah.
That's what
And what I promote there, and what I enforce to some degree, is that we'll always come back to the common denominator, which is freedom.
Yeah, I like. Yeah.
Anything that interrupts, the safe passage of civil liberties, I will defend.
100%. That's what we have to, not just for ourselves, but our kids and our grandkids.
And that's why it's based in the enjoyment for kids to enjoy the festival. It's why we don't have a bar there or anything like that, because we don't want pissheads there. We want good, wholesome family fun there.
Yeah.
On a personal level, I must say, because last year, so I've been through my situation at the Crown and I've fallen ill, and Tim will know that as well. And I went to carry on, and Tim was really good for me, so I set up my silver plate thing. Yeah, we went to a couple last year and they were amazing. So we went down doing Reiki. I went down doing Reiki, but there was no pressure on me. Tim allowed me, because what I'd been through and obviously part of the movement and stuff, to come down and just enjoy. Now those few days we had really blazing hot sun, didn't we? And I grounding, earthing. It changed my mood so quickly from a lot of down, a lot of depression, and I come away. It was a brilliant experience, and I did the sweat lodge as well, and I was like, this was very uplifting. This was an amazing experience. Yeah.
So after the first event, and then obviously when you've recharged your batteries, you've took a lot from it and thought, do you know what, it's been a very good event this, and a lot of people would have been giving you feedback and all the rest of it, and then you've got to work then, right, let's do it again. So then you've held just your second one, and was that even bigger?
Yeah, it was bigger in its content, that's for sure. The word had then got out a little bit more, what we did the first time round, and what the feeling, the vibrations that it created. So we had more people that wanted to perform there, more stallholders, more people that wanted to just speak and talk about their truth and what they thought about what was happening concurrently. I think that was probably the last time that I had anybody talking about current events, because I quickly learned after that August festival is that there was no need for people to talk about current events, because everybody was well versed on what was going on at that time. So it was even then I started to think, okay, let's go a bit more progressive. Let's think about the elements of what Carry On it was going to be. 2020, that's 2021. 2022 was more setting the template of how I wanted things to go there. It was quite sort of stringent on that. But it was like, let's give people a break, right? Let's give them a little bit of an holiday. Because everything that's going on out there, it's harrowing for a lot of people, wasn't it? It was, I thought, well, let's give people time off to recharge, but with a little bit of education in there as well. Progressive education, skills. What Brent Holloway does in the bushcraft area is fantastic, and the kids love that.
I think we should get Brent on at some point as well.
That'd be really good. It would be good to have him.
We'll get Brent. That'd be good.
When we do the living room couch setup, why don't we get a few? And have 2 or 3
that'd be lovely. That'd be really good. We'll do that,
because then everyone,
because there's some good times, because they'll bring in the funny things that have happened since we've been doing it. I thought, right, well, let's do it again. Let's do it again in the August. And it just got bigger and bigger, the more people were hearing about it. And then we saw, over 400 people come to that one. Right. So we're almost doubling every time. So we're doing good things in there. As long as I can keep the ethos in going in the right direction, and we keep that moral compass true and just. We'll continue to
in the areas where you're holding the events. Have you reached out yet because I can imagine that being fantastic for local businesses. Because if you're bringing 4,000 or 5,000 people to an area, I don't know if they just stay on that site all that time, or do they venture to the local?
You tend to have a sort of the tribal awaken people having their little businesses and their opportunities.
Yeah, we have certain policies.
Right.
We have certain policies.
You did that.
Yeah, I have certain, many policies, I suppose, that I keep reasonably stringent. Healing land, stallholders, etc., speakers, which are naturally all awake anyway. But we have only awake folk doing the healing land in particular, but stallholders as well. So everybody must be who's providing a service, be it in the healing land or performing, musician-wise. Everybody, every swinging dick is awake, and that's the way. That's what makes.
It's very unique, though. Then doesn't just become any old festival. Then does it?
I just think. So did you have things like I don't know, an ice cream van?
Yeah, he's awake. Jeff the ice cream.
That's
man.
what I'm saying. But like, because like sometimes, even so people wouldn't feel it to raise money, sometimes you can put like an extra 10p or 20p on something. But if all that goes back into the kitty, it all helps, doesn't it? Do you know what I mean? It's like.
Well, that's why it had to sort of change, really, I suppose. I mean, the stallholders will be aware of this. At the first 3 festivals, it was an invite, and if you want to give a contribution,
Don't worry, that's
nah. And then,
You tried that.
they'll fucking exit it.
There's a charity tin here.
And then,
Don't fucking work.
Yeah, they give it like a raffle. As if the points up at end. Flicked it, you know.
More likely people take stuff out. That'll pay for the diesel over.
So we thought, right, it needs to change a little bit. And that's the longevity of Carry On. But yeah, with the policies that we have there, it was important to keep that in line with the ethos of what Carry On does there. And that's appreciated by the people. Yeah. All right. A lot of these things is my initiatives, but a lot of it comes from the people anyway. Yeah. You know, they say, well, we don't want that there. And again, going back to the instincts that I have, I'm not saying I'm always accurate on what everybody wants. Yeah. But you
got a general feeling.
But the instinct, the way I work it is that I think...
You're almost perfect, Tim.
Oh, thank you. So close.
Really there?
So close. I think to myself, well, would I like that there at the festival? And I think if I would like it there, then it's generally working.
You gotta go with that. I mean.
Yeah, I mean, it's like as well. Example, I suppose. I like to do unique things there. Unique New York is that singles dating. The women, the warrior women in this movement at the moment, are finding it very tough to find their apocalyptic partner, as we called it. That's still continuing. So let's give them an opportunity to meet that guy, or for the guys to meet that girl. Quite top heavy in this movement with women.
100% they were fighting the side when we were kind of lacking behind a little bit.
Wow, yeah. I mean,
there's a lot more women woke up.
A lot more women were protesting, and a lot more were fighting.
Do you think that's the natural man's thing to be a bit more reserved? And
I think Mama Bear came out. I think they were looking at their kids and going, "I'm not having this."
That's interesting.
Yeah, it's fantastic. It was strange how it happened, really, because you'd always get the men who would be watching History Channel or Geography Channel, who would be watching conspiracy theories.
Yeah.
And before all this, right, it was very strange how it happened. It was almost like when the evidence became quite sort of prominent, it was almost that they were expected this to some degree, but they never followed it through.
Right, okay.
So maybe it was the surprise sort of element for the women of this movement that said, well, hang on a minute, I didn't expect this. So, well, let's resist it straight away, and damn right, you know, I mean...
Well, if there's one way you want to get a man's back up, it's like piss off his wife or something, isn't it? Or, you know what I mean? And I wonder if it's that natural mother instinct when they're thinking of the kids.
I think what Anne says, it's probably more accurate with that. If you start affecting the kids, which is what it did, and if you can't have kids going out playing out in the front, then... it's quite personal to the mother, of course.
And a lot of men by nature, to be fair, are quite laid back. But if you do something to your kids or your missus, then you see another beast, don't you? And it's very much like that.
My side of it is because I'm quite an emotive guy. My side was like, you're fucking my children's future up here. And that's when I started to come out. So I'm not having this.
See, I've never thought like that, mate. I just don't give a shit about my kids. No, I'm being serious now. It's fair.
Kind of laugh. But I think as well, I think there's different angles, I suppose. I mean, because I've thought quite in depth about this and you know what made us different, both men and women, of what we were doing. It's that conscious level. I think that women are just a lot more
attuned to it.
Yeah. I mean, I've thought of what made us different as a whole from that lot out there. You know, I thought about many different things of is it a blood type sort of difference? Is it an astrological thing? Not that I know anything about that. Is it a spiritual thing? Are we going down to the DNA side of it? Yeah, and I think I just thought, well, I think it's just people that don't like being told what to do.
I think that comes into
yeah. So maybe it was a school playground level where, you know, the disobedient who got detention. Yeah. Maybe it was that.
I've been quite surprised because even when we started doing this, I thought it would be predominantly like 80-20 women, because in the spiritual circles, like if you go off to the churches and all the rest of it, it was always predominantly women. It was women. But I've been very surprised with our statistics and everything else. Yeah. We are literally running on 50-50, aren't we? Yeah, it's like there's so many men who are literally sort of saying, do you know what, I'm a bit... I've even had it with my work lads who, like, you know what, they're rough and ready builders, if you like. And I remember meeting these two roofers. And that we ended up spending the whole day just chatting about this kind of stuff. And I was like, and you would not expect that fella who I was talking to have this kind of conversation.
That's what we need more of.
It's happening.
A lot more of that. So again, going back to the festival, we thought, well, let's do something. We have a singles night there. And I said before, that's in collaboration with what Sammy Webster started with the Soul Tribe, which I think was originally Awakened Data, I think it was. Now it's gone into, rebranded it into the Soul Tribe, and the fantastic sort of connections that's been made there. So I thought, right, well, let's do that bit. Let's get the singlies hooked up, get them married off, and then we kind of to some degree cover all the elements. So the Friday night we do the singles night, and then we're going to have a relationship coach on the Saturday. And then on Sunday, the doulas and the midwife can be there, so we can get them hooked up. Yeah, get them hooked up, and then possibly on the Sunday we could also get them married. We could have them married there. Because lovely.
And we had a wedding last year.
Yeah,
carry on camping, like Vegas, like when they just go in the chapel and get married.
In and out.
Well, it was last summer. Chris and Rich was married.
We had Chris Crox, who's a resident DJ there, and the lovely Rachel.
They lived at the back of the Crown.
Yeah.
And it is amazing because people who, like, you will meet someone with the same interests, and obviously you will meet your partners, wouldn't you? You'll fall in love and your soulmate.
Yeah.
And, you know,
it's about relationships.
Sometimes these are the miracles that you probably... Well, okay, so I know there's some that you will see, but there will be others who it's brought people together, and you would have been the catalyst of marriages and children.
Two babies come from the Crown.
Have they?
Yeah. And we were only open during that period. I mean, it's only months, isn't it? And there's love's generated and babies in there.
It's weird, isn't it?
So I think and I suppose...
We've got 3 babies.
Yeah. So we can keep...
but they're all yours.
That would be a miracle.
So yeah, I think if we can keep doing sort of covering those elements and carry on, then we'll keep doing that.
So with Roskilde, so we've had two big events now. It's doubled in size, the second one, and that was in 2022. The second one,
no, 2021.
Sorry,
yeah.
And then
2022, we then did another 2.
Okay.
Changed location. First year in 2021 was in Cumbria.
Yeah.
And 2022 we changed location, brought it more down to the north.
Because you needed more space? Or just a mixture?
Yeah, I think it was just a wise decision logistically to bring it down. Because most of as a percentage wise, I would say probably 50% people from the northwest, or maybe 40-50% from the northwest, massive percentage from the northeast, and then the remainders would be bringing it up from the Midlands and surrounding areas again. That's not to say that we're limited to that. We have people coming in from Scotland,
No, that's what I mean.
Devon,
The whole
Dorset,
country want to come,
Cornwall,
don't they?
Yeah.
Kent, Essex. We had a lady came over. Well, I've been informed there was another lady. We had a lady come over with a daughter from Southern Ireland, and we also had another lady who was in the country at the time. So I don't know if it was dedicated that she came, but she was coming from the Netherlands. April, we've got a group coming over from Portugal. So we've kind of gone a bit international with it.
Good.
I love it.
Good. Because ultimately it's for everyone, isn't it?
Yeah, and that was all by word of mouth. You know, like I
Very
said,
powerful, that.
yeah.
So 2022, so you're doing event number 3, and this was further down
Peak
south.
District.
The Peak District,
Yeah,
sorry. Yeah.
lovely location.
Beautiful.
And again, replicated the same thing from the first 2, just learning stuff all the
absolutely.
time.
Just more content.
Adding more stuff.
Yeah, I think I knew that in 2022 I needed to set the template for it because it's working. I mean, if it's not broke, no need to really fix it. And then as more people came, I didn't want to take too much out because they were coming on the strength of what the first 2 were.
Yeah.
So I thought, well, let's keep doing that, just make it bigger. Yeah. You know, we'd have more workshops or a much stronger workshop, clay workshop, art workshop. This year we're going to have more for a crash facility for the mums and dads that want to go to the healing land and take a bit of time off there. Right. So the girls that are coming from the northeast, they're going to facilitate that. Last year we had Dawn Sample and a couple of the others doing it. So it was just brilliant having these people. Bringing these ideas in. And it'd be them who would be giving me these ideas. Tim, what about this? Yeah, that's a good idea. So, and I'd make it happen, facilitate it.
Is there like a thing like where people give like a talk and things like that? And
we have empowerment. So the way generally the day goes is that we start off with the spirituality side, with the morning river swim or lake swim.
You have the breath work as well with Julianne. She was on with us last week.
These people give a talk about what
she'll get the main marquee because she has so much interest. We give a space in the main marquee for it. Luke Scott will do meditation, and then we start the day. A lot of spirituality is physical fitness type stuff in the mornings. In the afternoons, mainly for empowerment. Andy Barlow will come and do his talks, or Callie Spell. Lots of other different people. This year we've got Andy Truman from The Good, who'll be talking about all the fantastic things that he's doing. So generally empowerment in the afternoon.
Do you give a bit of a talk, or do you keep it more of a low profile?
No, I'm supposed to.
He goes on his van with his hat on, a megaphone, shouting at people.
Get them all in the marquee, get them all roused up.
So what's the percentage? Do people set up tents, or do they stay in camper vans?
Tents and camper vans.
Whatever you want.
Just a mixture of
whatever you want. Yeah, we have people come along who will sleep in their cars just to be there, just to throw a mattress in or a pillow, whatever they've got. But everything from small tent, 1-man tents to bivvies to bell tents. They'll come along in the vans, motorhomes. We had converted trucks there as well. Yeah.
And would you be adverse to?
Some people actually. So camping isn't for everybody.
Yeah.
All right. We do have some princesses there.
Yeah. And I'm more of an hotel kind of guy.
Yeah, and that's what I encourage. Is look, come anyway. Yeah. Come as a day tripper. We've got special rates for them. Stay locally. If you're on Airbnb, do it. But just come. I was
going to ask that. So, let's say I was in the area of what's it called, and you just thought, "Whoa, there's something really good going on there." Can someone just come in and take part? Yeah. So, obviously, you want to control it. You don't just want a bloody brunch of rowdy whatever. But
with the advertising, the promo side of it, is that I only ever really send out the flyers on all the awake groups, be it on Facebook or Telegram.
Yeah.
So generally, you're going to have 99.5% people there that I know are going to be awake, and I can be quite confident in that, purely because of the way we promo it. And again, it is by word of mouth. So it's
they're
generally
not talking to the
everybody
same,
knows.
yeah.
When we started off at the parties, we all knew that I was going because they were all going to the parties, and then it kind of developed that we've got somebody who's not been to the parties. They're allowed to come. Of course, they're allowed to go. Are they awake? Yeah, good.
Did you have any? Speaking of that, did you have any worries of people coming in infiltrating? Because I had it at the pub. I know was. And,
I think you have to expect it.
Yeah.
You can't be watertight with these sort of gatherings.
I'm going to pick up on this a little bit because, like again, this is all new to me. So, in the truth, is there really people out there who are basically for the wrong reasons and they're coming to these parties to
You've got
spread mass information or something, or basically just to find out who's there?
Disruption, I suppose. Isn't
Oh,
yeah. We've not experienced it yet at Carry On. Could I say for sure that we've had an infiltrator in there? Possibly.
But what would be the point of it?
Well, during our time, it would have been. My personal feeling was they were trying to see if I was a protester, trying to create a movement and a political side of things. So I think that was happening for me, but I don't know if that would happen. At
I could understand from a police point of view if they had an undercover.
That's what
cop or
happened.
something,
That's what happened.
And they were basically, listen, is this all actual peace and love, or are they? Is this the next, the 80s movie V? Is this the next Resistance?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I could understand from that point of view, and I suppose that could happen. They probably have that in any organisation.
If they did come, if they did came, in 2021 or 2022, I think they probably left a little bit disappointed.
They were. I think
probably left with a good sauna, a good steam bath, and a couple of bracelets.
And hopefully red pills. Converted. I think it'd probably been disappointing from them. There's nothing untoward going on at Carry On. It is just a bit of an holiday for like-minded.
It's a nice gathering, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Right. So you've had your third one, and it's continued to grow. Are you feeling any pressure or responsibility at this point now?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think if I didn't feel that, then I'd be absolutely flippant.
No, because you can take it to your advantage as well, can't you?
I mean, certainly it's not any sort of pressure that I've not experienced before. Yeah. And I think as well, with that in mind, you need to be under that pressure to create a standard.
Yeah.
It's like the ego gets quite a bad rep.
We were talking about this the other day, wasn't we?
Ego.
You must have an ego. I mean, everybody knows about my ego, and we laugh about it.
Wouldn't know.
No.
Have you got an ego, Tim?
It's huge. And I still haven't had these rose petals laid in the ground for me. Nobody's put me up on a crown.
Maybe the next
loft. Held me aloft on a crown, and it's still not, I don't know when it's going to happen. I'm hoping it's going to happen. But then, with that, it's you must have a bit of an ego to create standards, to drive you forward. You must put yourself under some sort of pressure to drive forward and know where your project management lies and in the deadlines and what must happen at certain points. As Ant will know when yourself is running a business, is that there's certain markers you've got to get in and prioritise what needs to be done first. So I guess with the, in particular with the last role that I did, as much high pressure that was, it'll drive you forward to raise the standards. I'll always sort of welcome new ideas into Carry On to make it better. It must evolve. Because if it just stays stagnant, then nobody will be like.
I don't know if it comes under ego, if people want to, but I know from my own businesses, I'm with Drake and everything. I get driven by. I want it to be a success, and I want people to say that was successful. That was great.
On yourself.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. So that if that's ego, well then I'm egotistical then, because that is my drive. But the other side of that is failure, and that also drives you because the fear of it not working.
Yeah, it's much greater, isn't it?
That gets you out of bed every morning to keep pushing forward.
We don't want that feeling, do we?
No, because I say this to you, like for me now, like I'm building Drake, but as you get bigger and you start introducing, now your fear is, well, what if I have to say to him there's no more work anymore? What if I have to now tell all the community members there's nowhere to visit anymore? So then you've got that fear, but the only trouble is all the spiritual stuff tells you do not allow that because you don't want that blockage, you don't want that energy, you just want to be in the energy of everything's going to work. And to make it flow.
Yeah,
but
definitely.
as a human, and whether you want to, that's very difficult.
That's the challenge.
That's the fear. It's like the fear of running out of money, the fear of people not turning up, the fear of. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I don't know if that is ego, but I know that's what drives me. I want it to be successful, but I certainly have the fear of what if it's not? What if I'm wrong?
And every sort of positive that you get will then propel you even more forward, won't it? And that's the important part. It's like, I touched on it earlier, is that I feel like I get gifted with people, and that's what propels me a lot more forward. If I have a text, a message, a phone call, and people want to say, Tim, I want to do something at your festival. All right, what do you do? Well, I do this, and I've got this clay thing that's new, and the kids will love it, and that just resonates with me.
It makes you feel
massive. Yeah.
It's like your kids at Christmas kind of thing, right? Let's be honest. It's nothing to do with what's in the box. It's their little faces. It's that happiness and joy.
Yeah,
that's what it's all about.
Isn't it? I think that's what Carry On's got. Is that innocence.
Yeah.
I suppose it can be described as being grassroots, but as grassroots, it is that innocence when we were playing out till the lights went. You knew it was time to go in when the street lights came on. And sometimes I'll go around the festival, at 12 of night time, making sure everybody's in bed, and not on the, it's little things like that really do make it quite different from a lot of other sort of festivals out there. It's that family. It's like, and we found that in particular. I found it. Chris and Rachel's wedding. It was something quite special.
It was amazing.
I could feel something quite.
It was amazing.
So this is a couple who met during Carry On Camping,
so
and they got
Chris was
married.
one of the
They lived
originals.
in the Crown in the caravan behind us. They fell in love at the Crown, and they got married at Carry On last year.
Wow,
It was brilliant.
Yeah.
And they had a baby as well.
Yeah.
and everybody at Carry On was there.
Oh,
for
it was a big
See,
crowd.
that's quite special.
It was amazing.
The memories of that.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And well deserved as well. What a lovely couple they are. They're amazing
Tremendous.
people.
Yeah.
Tremendous. So number 3 again has been a fantastic success. And then was there a number 4?
Yeah, so that'll be last August. That was the last one that we did.
That's the last one.
Again, it was sort of July went really well, but for me, it needed everything to be perfect for August, and I think we, as much as everything, curveballs that was thrown at me during the setup week and during the festival itself, all that planning and preparation that was done before it, set the standard of how I wanted it, and now I'm confident in what Carry On Camping does and the template that it is. I had everything thrown at me on that weekend. Everything from
It was a busy one, wasn't it?
Yeah,
The police really early
So
doors.
how many?
we had a missing man there, you see, a young man.
Yeah.
By one of our sort of close members, I suppose, of Carry On.
Yeah.
He went missing, had the police, and they're only there to search for this guy, and they kind of based themselves at the festival.
It just brings a pressure though, doesn't it?
Yeah, it was a bit disconcerting for some of the.
Yeah,
so I had to get the
yeah,
word out there to everybody. I said, look, they're in just for this missing guy. Don't worry about it. It's okay.
Would you weed away?
But yeah, every what you've got. There's no radio. And the liaison with the police again went really well. And what else did we have? Oh, lots of other things.
So what kind of numbers are we on now? Like number 4?
I think we had well over 1,100 people.
Yeah, it was busy.
So we're not talking. We're not even just talking about a few numbers now. We're talking about
Serious numbers now.
I mean, if you're stood in a field with 1,100 people, we're talking mass numbers now.
Yeah. So
from 30 people hiking up a mountain or whatever to 1,100 people in a field.
Yeah,
I mean, that is
logistically, it was an increase and
That's some achievement.
to some degree a challenge. Yeah, that's for sure. I think we could probably double that.
So you definitely sort of, it's guided. For it to grow such a thing, there's definitely. Do you know what I mean? It's
the people want it.
The people want
But
it.
it won't be just Tim, the energy of all these people are guiding.
But
There's a lot going on.
yeah, it is. But it takes a creator.
But Tim's the figurehead.
That's what I'm saying.
An organisation, because without Tim, it'd fall apart.
And I know, and that's what's important. So you've got number 4.
I try to remain humble.
You don't
No, I can see what's going on.
Yeah. I try to remain humble, and I'll always sort of say that it's not me. It's I'm in front of the laptop making all the calls. Doing well over 12 hours a day.
Of course you are.
And taking time out to build the Viking shelter, which is our latest career.
I've seen the pictures. Yeah, I've seen
the video.
I've not seen the video. No.
was brilliant, and I'll try and get that on the next email out to everybody for whoever who's not seen it. Again, another massive positive social media response on that as well. So I'm super pleased about that, and. That was hard work to do the Viking hut, and people that helped on that.
You love it though, don't you?
Yeah.
Is it getting with them kind of numbers? Is it getting? I know you want to keep it to the sort of the ethics of it and the grassroots, but is it sort of getting to the thing where you could literally have a stage and almost like a concert, like someone playing?
Well, we've chatted about this, and Tim's the same as we said. Tim needs to get Ian Brown.
Yeah.
We want Ian Brown at Carry On.
Ian, if you're watching,
he tunes in every episode. IanBrown.com.
I'll give you a bell tent. That's about the best we can do.
Get you a bell tent.
And I'll get my boy Charlie to cook a steak for you. It's fantastic. I can't pay you anything just yet, but if you want to join you people, come and show the people who you are. And I'd much appreciate it. August, last weekend in August.
If anybody does know a way to get to Ian Brown in terms of his contacts, that'd be really good. If everyone knows,
I'd love to see him there.
And because ultimately stuff like this, it is all about contacts. And believe it or not, somebody will have these type of contacts on there. This is where the miracles happen.
Of course it is.
I never mentioned before, by the way, but I actually served in NAM myself.
Right, Dagenham.
Do you know what? Me and my mate Sean, when we always used to take the piss and everything, we'd be carpet cleaning or working for a fiver or something, and we used to have this joke and we go, do you know what? It was like this back in NAM. And then we lost a leg and all. We've never served in our life. We've never done buckle. But anyway, I'm digressing. So I'm thinking I can picture it in my head here. I'm thinking you got all these people and a stage and people playing almost like it's fucking like Glastonbury, but like on a whatever level.
It's growing, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, it was, again, it sort of surprises me a little bit on how we've sort of grown there. I mean, the first stage that we had, we built the first stage. I built the first stage. So we got pallets. We got like 16 pallets, I think it was, and put some 12mm hardwood plywood on it, 6 sections of those. We built them.
That's how I built mine.
And it worked really well. Sort of bolstered it up and got it all levelled, and and then last year I thought, well, I've only got so much time in the day to get these things set up, and I thought, right, well, let's pay for the stage now, and thankfully it wasn't too much. And I always ask for discounts from all the contributors.
Of course.
Yeah, you can't get something for nothing, and it works half the time. We are getting bigger, but there's I suppose the next question might be, where do you see this going? And I suppose to some degree there's no real limits. It has to change in its organisation, I think, for this year, for next year. But there is no real limits, I suppose, if you look at the amount of weight people that we do have in the UK in particular.
And that's growing.
Yeah, it's like, well, how many people were at the London protests?
There's 1 million people were.
Well, it depends, because if you ask the BBC, no one, it never took place.
1,000, that was it, wasn't it? Scratching their asses.
Yeah, exactly.
In France, everything's peaceful on the streets. There's nothing happening. Depends which channel you watch.
So I suppose, if it keeps attracting the like-minded souls, we could get bigger than Glastonbury. Maybe that's what I should do. I mean, with men in particular, we like to be competitive, and I'll make no bones about it. I like to be.
You do,
competitive.
yeah. There's nothing wrong with that.
There's a couple of festivals out there. They don't realise it, but I'm going to make sure that I'm better than them. They know who they are when you're watching, gentlemen, both of you. And they're going to be playing catch up. But they must always realise is that I'm made to support you, gentlemen.
But the thing is, that'll push them as well.
Yeah,
everybody's helping everybody else to be the best version of.
I think and it's
healthy.
It's healthy sort of thing.
You've got to have targets, and you've got to have somewhere to reach.
Got to do. Yeah, I mean, I like to think as well. And this is my arrogance and the ego, sort of, I suppose, with it. I like to think that I've set the standard. I did want to have sort of conversations with people that I sort of do more events, and I will say to them, let's have a sit down chat. I'll show you the way I've done it, the way I've upheld cash and other elements of it, and then show that it can be done in this particular way. It might not be that way next year because things are going to have to change with digital currency and things like that, and the absolute harrowing sort of freight train that is. But there's a way that it needs to be done. And I hope they all follow suit. Again, that's me being a little bit arrogant, but I think it's been successful because the people know how I've done it. They know the fundamentals. You don't have to have a big, massive.
So the last website. Two, have they been held up in the Peak District? So is there any scope for taking it like down south?
I think as long as we can. There was one idea early last year where I would take it national on almost like a travelling circus.
But that's right, because you're going to have people all over the country who would want...
People will travel. People will travel to carry on. Like I said, last year we had people coming in from Scotland to the Peak District, and that, must have been, Christ, for some of them, 8 hours. Yeah. But they knew nobody else was doing what we were doing. Yeah. So they made the way of people from Cornwall, Devon, Dorset, that's got to be 10 hours at least, travelling all the way. Massive journey. Kent, Essex, they were coming in again. But if I was to do it anywhere else, it'd be in the southwest. The southwest is almost like a mirror image of the northwest in particular. The force is quite strong there.
Is that Hull?
No, that's northeast.
Sorry.
So the southwest is more like, I suppose you've got that everywhere from Cornwall, Devon, Dorset, all the way to some degree to Gloucester, and Hertfordshire maybe as an extreme. Because I think because of Glastonbury is,
there's a lot of spiritual. It's a very spiritual place, though. Yeah.
Huge there. So I've always seen a lot of the people that I've met and talked to, be it Carry On or other entities. I always had a warm fuzzy feeling with Southwest on that. If I was to do a Carry On there, it would be successful. Yeah, because we do have quite a lot of people. I mean, they must at least have about, from that area alone, a good 10-15% from the demographic of what comes to Carry On. There's quite a few of them. Yeah.
So it makes sense to maybe.
Yeah, so if I was to do that, but anyway, going back to start of 2022, I did have the idea. Well, let's do it across the UK, and that would be places like the southwest, southeast. Lincolnshire was another one. Go back to Cumbria, the roots, and then do one up in Scotland as well. I think logistically that was a lot. Yeah. That was a big bite to take out of that chunk, and it didn't feel right. Yeah. So I thought, right, let's just keep it more central. Yeah. So I think as long as I can keep it, in the areas of, I suppose from the Wirral to the Cheshire to the Lancashire to the Lincolnshire to the South Yorkshire, then that will then service people that come from the northwest, northeast, the Midlands, Kent and Essex, and those are a little bit further afield.
People will travel. I suppose it makes more sense for people to travel to the event rather than the event to travel.
Yeah, logistically, it's a massive undertaking to take
try
on
and
the
set up
travelling
and try and
circus. But I mean, I think I sort of increased, the learning curve, I suppose, because I think it's important to do learning curves in your career. We had 2 last year, and now I'm going to do 4.
Not 4 this year.
So you got 4 events on this year. So when's event number 1?
So event number 1 will be the end of April, which will be the 28th, 29th and 30th of April, and that will be the Carry On camping that we all know and love.
Yeah.
We'll then have another event, which is Carry On Rockin, and I'm already taking bookings for all these at the moment. Right. Yeah. Carry On Rockin, which is an over 16s, and that's more of a rock biker lifestyle, country, and
that could be massive as well.
Yeah, and all aspects of that sort of
the biking community.
Yeah,
isn't it?
Yeah, it's huge, and lots of things going on there. Because we can still have the spiritual sort of stuff there, and I'm still saying to the healers, come along and do one-to-ones if you want, but get on it as well. It really is a time for the truth movement people to let their hair down on that one, and that was born through a conversation that me and Brent Holloway, the survival guy, had, because he's a biker as well, and it was, the biker rallies and such like sort of shied away from events over the lockdown, as I was sort of galvanising who I was, I didn't really want to go to these biker rallies because I didn't have anything in too much common with them anymore, apart from bikes, the love of bikes. So I thought, well, let's build our own. Let's
but it's another great way of opening people who are opening their eyes and waking up from that community to come into that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So again, you're
all
encompassing.
Yeah. With that one, with Carry On Rockin, I'm sort of inviting a lot of all the Carry On camping campers, all the awakened folk, of course. But I'm opening that up a little bit more for the towards the bikers and the rockers and people that just want to let their hair down a little bit more with that one. And I think it's right that I do that for at least one festival this year, because what I'll always say to people, and I was posed this question last year, is Tim, a couple of people said, Tim, would you allow the vaxxed in here or the non-awake? And I said, well, I think we next year, I said, this time next year, we need to be very open arms for these people and show compassion
100%.
and empathy.
Yeah,
all right?
100%.
Because we know what's going on at the moment, and there's going to be a lot of angry folk that start to wake up. Yeah. And that'll be our biggest weapon.
And the last thing you want to do is listen. If someone took the vaccines under whatever their opinion at the time or their knowledge at the time, the last thing they need to be then is almost the opposition now saying, tough luck, you shouldn't have. No, that's not going to bring people together. No, exactly. That's almost like the Brexit. Listen, it doesn't matter who's right or wrong. Now we need a solution. What's going to bring people together?
Yeah. If we could be in the higher moral standpoint, that will just reflect on exactly who we are, I think and where we are. I mean, it's tempting to say, I told you so, you know what I mean? Yeah. But now it's become boring saying that.
Yeah,
because, conspiracy theories, loyal to the foil, we've actually run out of theories now.
Let's be honest. Let's be honest. When all said and done,
give me some more.
You can say whichever words, or I told you so, but do you know what? When all said and done, we do not want to see people sudden deaths or people collapsing with illnesses and blah. We do not want to see that pain.
We don't want to see people suffering.
We don't want to see any of that. So now it's got to be a case of, because these holistical people will have certain treatments that can bring to the table and say, listen, you need to detox your body.
We had Adam White with us, Adam White.
Do you know what I mean? So now it's going to be a case of a knowledge-based... Yeah. How do we help you?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Because these people will be scared. Fearful.
Well, I mean, I've had conversations with I won't say who it is because they might end up watching this, and I don't want to embarrass them by no means. But there's an individual, one of our suppliers, I suppose, to Carry On, and he was always awake, I suppose, but he had constraints of his peers, his family, and such like work commitment. So he ended up getting a couple of the jabs, and he's in fear now because he's still within the awakened sort of community and having that knowledge presented to him.
Yeah.
So inadvertently he's seeing this.
It becomes more frightening.
And I'm sort of, I saw him just before the Orcas Festival, and I'm trying to sort of say, well, listen, mate, don't listen to all that information. It's like the rabbit hole, half of it's bollocks anyway. But I'm sort of, I don't want to lie to him.
No, I know.
So maybe that's why I'm doing carry on Rockin part, because I want to open it up and say, right, Brick, come in, relax, we know what's going on, all the rest of it.
Let's have a laugh.
And let's red pill you to fuck. Bring them and recruit them. And then
we need a frontline army.
That would be kind of fodder.
Send the bikers.
Add some of that in, so that would be a good thing to mix and keep our, because it's, the ultimate goal, and we'll come on to sort of carry on communities and what the intentions are with that.
Yeah, that's important to talk about.
Yeah, we'll still, what I say to a lot of people is don't be insular in what we have already. Don't be burning any bridges, because to create something, we still need to have
together.
Infrastructure all around us, Great sort of the work that Danny Moore's doing, obviously with the pharmacy co-op. We're bringing him into that and giving him a platform. There's a long way to go. We're playing catch up in a lot of respects, but we need all those elements of what a society works with.
We've talked about the first two Carry On camping events this year. The second one being the Carry On Rockin.
Yeah, Carry On Rockin, which again is at the end of May, so they're all pretty much end of the months on the weekend. Carry On Rockin, I think, just to recap on that a little bit, will be for an over 16s, sort of rocker, country, biker, lifestyle sort of festival. That'll be, and it'll be kind of like a bit of a free-for-all on that one. We have lots of different things on it, for everything from Fat Man eating competitions, hot dogs, to beer challenge, challenges on that, to air guitar. Got an air guitar competition on it. So it'll be a time, that one, for the people to really let their hair down on it. Yeah, or maybe put air on. I don't know, maybe. Yeah. I encourage everybody to sort of come to that one. It'll be a test festival, so I've never really done it before. And that was born out, again, necessity from me and Brent, who are bikers. We thought, right, well, let's do our own. In our own image, and then we'll be going on to the next festivals after that.
So come on and tell us a little bit more.
Right then, so that'll be, so we've got Carry On Camping, which is end of April, and then we've got Carry On Rockin, which is end of May, and the next one after that will be Carry On Communities, which will be end of July. Now then, this is a new festival, this is a new sort of concept. From the people that know me quite personally, they would always know that it's never been just about the festivals. It was always something in the background that we were always going to do. We have many different elements, ethos and people that come towards the festival that want to do something a lot more for the future. So what we're going to do is this. Carry On Communities is going to be teaching everything construction, how to build a house, a dwelling from the ground up. So it's going to include sewerage, mains, water, brickwork, plastering, woodwork, the joinery side, the electricals, putting the roof on. And that's going to empower people, give people the confidence to know and understand how a dwelling is erected into it. What I'm looking for in that is that there's so many people that are wanting to unplug themselves from the matrix, but don't have the confidence to maybe go into a community or start their own community, or even buy a little bit of land and build something for themselves. Not everybody is like me, who watched relentlessly Grand Designs in telly and loved what they were doing, and to build something in your own image. Some people would rather have it to some degree simplified, so we can do that. And again, it's about giving the opportunity for people to unplug from that matrix, to give them that confidence to go forward. So that's one part of Carry On Communities, the construction side. And we've already got people coming towards us now that are wanting to contribute. So we've already got a plumber, we've already got a sparky, a guy who does electricals, we've got a painter and decorator, potentially we've got a joiner coming towards us. So as we get along, we're starting to build that. Also, another element of Carry On Communities, which is a very important part, which is grow your own. Now, growing your own can be divided up into lots of little areas. We're going to make it fun as well as we go along. For the little kids, we're going to be doing plant potting, so showing them what it means from the earth to the plate, how these vegetables, these fruit and all such things, even herbs and such like, come from the ground, and how we use them on the plate. Because, you know, there's a lot of kids that come from the city who don't really understand this still even.
Yeah, they've never seen it.
So that's what we want to teach with that. And some wonderful contributors coming again towards us. Almu's going to be teaching the kids pot planting for that. And then people like Claire Rose, who's going to be coming in doing biochar, which is super important. Biochar is a process of creating, I suppose, nitrogen into the ground. And it was sort of pioneered by South Americans in the sort of Amazon regions.
Right, okay.
There's only archaeologists that would dig down into these lands to see how much of a degree they were preparing the land. So it's almost like a fertiliser to some degree.
Yeah.
So you can be teaching that, how it can be done in your back garden.
Love it.
Yeah, so that's
I've started growing this year.
Yeah.
No idea what I'm doing. Not a clue.
Yeah, she's got
get to the community.
I know,
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, the thing is as well, it's absolutely a time for me to learn as well, because I've just never been green fingered at all.
No, me neither.
My mum, if you take a plant round to my mum's, it will bloom.
Yeah.
Me, houseplants die.
Yeah, we're the same.
I don't know why that is.
Some people.
So permaculture is going to come into that as well. Also, we're going to try and get hold of a farmer or two, at the very least, to come in as a petting zoo for the kids.
Correct.
Just get them close up to, a lamb or a pig or maybe even the beast, the cow, possibly. We could bring that in. That'd be great. And to create that bit more of a familiarity between the people and what the farming industry does.
Yeah.
If they can give a talk on it, on what their difficulties are in farming, or where they perceive themselves are going to be in the next few years, because the farming industry and the land is changing as well, definitely. As we know. So that again is very important on what we believe in, because as we know, farming land has been sold off massively at the moment. They're just not being encouraged. So let's bring them in, because I'm pretty sure the farmers are becoming more awake now.
Yeah, well, in other countries, they're protesting, Holland and everything.
Holland, it's big in Holland.
But in this country, they've sort of been subsidised by the government to sell off the land, haven't they? And they've probably thought at the time it would help, but it's not, is it? There's a bigger agenda again.
It's clearly an attack there.
Well, it's to take control of the stock of food. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You control the food, and you
control the food. You control the people.
Yeah, and as we know, with Bill Gates and such like, they're investing trillions into this, and it's not a good sort of way to go.
We call him Kill Gates here.
Yeah, Kill Gates.
But do you know what? Just quickly coming on to that, because I saw something yesterday. And it was all the news organisations around the world, CBN, BBC. And do you know what? The BBC received $335 million from the Bill Gates Foundation.
Yeah, Bill and Melinda Gates.
Right.
And
then you have to ask, look, well, why, if you're receiving money, you're not talking badly about these people.
Of course you know.
You know what I mean? It's like, and then so all these companies are having this
conflicts of interest.
Conflicts of interest.
You were seeing in the Guardian. I mean, we're going down a different path here, but down in the Guardian, sponsored by Bill and Melinda Gates. And this was a paper that was supposed to be very impartial at one time.
just...
It's like the Independent as well.
The Independent was on the list there. The Independent, The Guardian, BBC, CBN News, and other.
It's
irony.
It's unbelievable, isn't it? So yeah, if we can bring in a farmer or two,
that'd be brilliant.
Then I think then we've got all the three elements of that for Carry On Communities. So I encourage lots of people to get in touch with me, and if they can bring a skill set to that.
We'll get some contact details in our description as well. So if anyone's watching that,
the community idea is really good because there's a lot of people turning. Although the government and that are trying to stop you doing anything like this, there's a lot of people turning back to growing their own veg, growing their own. Because let's be honest, they realise they can't afford.
Well, inflation's going to
can't afford anything.
So it's like anyway.
And one thing that we said we wanted to experiment with is around your fruit and veg. In ancient times, they used to put copper rods, and apparently it makes it grow rapid, like ridiculous sizes. So that'll be interesting as well, because we've lost touch with all these.
Of course we have, because it's convenient. They've made it so it's so easy for us to just go to the supermarket and buy chemically enhanced food.
I know. So that's good, and also it's going to bring in a whole new genre of people as well, isn't it? So you got the kids.
I think that's great.
It's a great idea, the community idea.
Yeah. So we'll build that. We'll build the foundation of it. This will be the first one that we will do. I suppose people have asked me already. What direction are we going in with this? As I said to you before, I think talk's cheap. I'd much rather sort of prove on what I'm doing with the actions of where we're going to go with this, even if it's sort of more simple level of achievement with this. If it can empower the people to take those first steps to understanding what's required to start unplugging themselves from the matrix, or to start going forward to live more independently in a self-sufficient way.
I think it's that sovereignty, isn't it? And then
we start to achieve that.
You're empowering people by doing that. I love that.
And if we can go at one end of the spectrum for that, where people start coming towards, say, well, actually, we've now got a plan. We've now got the elements of society.
It's a lovely thing, because that would then join dots and relationships everywhere. So if such a person's got a certain crop and such a person's got another crop, and
it seems weird to talk about it in sort of civilized societies like ours now compared to because if we were having these conversations in a third world country, you would think it sounded more reasonable, but it's unbelievable. But we actually need it back here now.
We do,
people need these, and it's like an old saying is give a man a fish, he'll eat for a day, but give him a rod, and that's what your community. Do you know what I mean? And that's what your community idea is doing, isn't it? Because I dare say. You've probably already thought of this, but on a community thing, you probably will have speakers who will show you how to manage your money and your food, and this kind of stuff. So people can understand, look, things are tight, but this is how you can plan. Yeah. This is how you can plan your meals. This is how you can do this.
We've got two people coming in who's going to be doing, one's going to be doing nutritional cooking. She's a nutritionist. We've got another lady coming in who's going to be doing frugal cooking, Jackie Dale. So it's going to be, making, tasty dishes,
really
filling
nice,
dishes.
Yeah.
And you don't have to spend a massive amount of money on making. The Second World War, I suppose, proved that with Bubble and Squeak. Yeah. I think it's classed as a peasant dish because it can be made from quite cheaply and fill bellies. So that's.
I remember when I was a kid getting Bubble and Squeak.
Yeah,
but probably had more health benefits in it than a throw in the oven pizza.
Well, veg was
crap what you have today.
That's definitely.
Veg could be grown in your little allotment in your back garden.
Right. Yeah.
So it was cheap to eat that. It was only really meats and eggs and milk that was on the ration book, I believe. And I'm far too young for this conversation. But so that's what can be done. If you can grow your vegetables and get whatever nutrition comes from on that cheaply, that's the ethos.
And I don't know if you've already got people involved in that event, because I know what I've come across lately, which I just find fascinating, is bees. The importance of honey,
we've got a beekeeper.
That the benefits of it is it's out of this world, right? And then also I've come across lately is the benefits of dandelion.
Yes.
Dandelion leaves. So all these nettles and everything else. I mean, if you've got a speaker who knows about all this kind of stuff, it's fucking amazing.
Powerful stuff.
Like when I was a kid, I don't know if we used to look over someone's garden and they'd have like rhubarb. But who'd you see these days growing rhubarb or the dandelion? Or we used to go around and you'd nick the crab apples off the trees, or you'd eat the blackberries and the raspberries. I never see that anywhere these days anymore.
No, you don't see much of it. I mean, the dandelions are quite sort of fundamental to the bees, aren't they?
Yeah.
Because I think it's their first food source for the bees when they come out of hibernation. But yeah, we've got a really cool chap called Joe Willerton. He'll be coming in April to do his beehives. And that'll be one of the jobs that I'll be doing next week on the land. We're building a bee enclosure for that, and hopefully we'll see him at all 4 events this year as well.
Good.
Much needed.
That information is getting out there to people. And I don't know if you can get somebody as well. If you can get an expert on sleep. Right, and get them to talk about the importance of sleep. Oh my God!
It might bore people to sleep though.
No, listen, I know, because like kids today, because they're always on the phones and everything, right? And then you're having kids with like ADHD and all these different, which were all around 10 years ago, right? I've listened to there's a fella who's on one of the Joe Rogan podcasts, and when you start what it's doing to the brain, and it's fucking the kids up and it's fucking people up, and the only way to reverse it is to get proper sleep. And it's just little things like they're on the phone till last minute at night before they close their eyes, but the brain doesn't close down for 2 hours after they tried to sleep, and then first thing in the morning they're back on the phone, and what's happening is the brain's never switching on. It's never having time, because the importance of sleep is the brain plays out the emotions and everything, what's happening, and you know what I mean, your body actually heals while you're asleep.
It's that rejuvenation, isn't it?
Yeah. And so I don't know if that's something else, or if you could come across someone, because I mean, I've got to be, that's just a personal thing for me. Like, I want to get someone on the podcast who
we're looking for that.
The importance of it. It's just because I know it's just massive. It's massive.
We've got that might sort of tie in with another couple. Hopefully they're going to come. That might not be till July and August, I think. She's actually wrote a book on the well-being of kids.
Right.
Hopefully she's going to be able to play there as well. Fantastic voice on her. I think we'll probably have her on the Sunday with kind of like a bit more of a relaxed vibe. But yeah, hopefully we'll get to see her. That, like I said, could be the July and August, and that's more for the wellbeing and nutrition of kids as well. But yeah, I mean, I think it's probably a good idea.
Yeah, something like that.
Well, I think that's what we promote at Karen anyway. Yeah, is, from very early on, I would tell people, look, just turn your phones off, get off Telegram. You don't need it. You're here. This is what, if you want to put your phone and take photos, great. I support that. But you don't, it's a funny thing as well. At Carry On, you don't see that many people on the phone, do you?
I can imagine.
There's a lot of activities going on. I mean, when we got there, Lou's little lad, Jake, he's your typical lad at this age where everything's Xbox, everything's on your phone, and as soon as he got there, I think it was Ricky and Ross's little lad.
Ilan,
straight away, hit it off straight, and I'd never seen that with Jake before, because he's a very shy kid. Off they went, and Lou was like, "Where's he gone? Where's he gone?" Because you're used to him being around us, and he was loving it. He had a great time.
He arrived there, and the kids almost go a bit feral, don't they? And they go in their own tribes, and the parents love me because they don't see the kids all day long. They come back when they're hungry, and then by the time they've burnt themselves out on the bouncy castles, come 8-9 o'clock,
they're asleep properly.
They're asleep.
And
they don't get up till
that's how it used to be.
That's
right. And the kids have, they're the memories, what you remember. They're the great days.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? we what's it called? Just going off topic, but like, I know we have a camera recording or whatever in the audios, but the great thing about the podcast is like today. Now we sat here like 2-3 hours. Couple of men having it. Now what? You don't do that.
Couple people and a woke.
And a what?
A woke. Yeah.
Are they them and them? But you know what? But you think of your life. How often do you get to sit down and have a good chat? Right? I mean, back in the day, I suppose a couple of men used to go to the pub and have a beer and they'd have a bit of a chat. But that don't exist anymore.
No.
Right?
It's certainly getting limited. I mean, I think the evolution of pubs was always going to change anyway.
Yeah.
Because of that culture to some degree. But maybe it's been instigated. Who knows with that one? But it was always a dangerous place for the government.
Revolution started pubs.
Yeah. I mean, my people know my email of What Tyler. They'll know why I chose that name, and that started in a pub.
All right, okay.
Yeah. So I don't like to talk about that because I like people to Google or DuckDuckGo, whatever your search engine you use, but find out who What Tyler is, and you'll know why I chose that name.
Tyler, okay.
Yeah. And that started in a pub, didn't it? But you're right. I mean, we don't sort of always get that opportunity to actually sit down and have those discussions. So maybe we should do more.
Well, this is why I think the podcast revolution, if you like, it's growing so quickly because people like to hear other people's stories. They like to know what have you done in your life? How did you get from being in the paraforce, to holding massive 1,000 people bigger events on Carry On Camping? People want to know that journey.
Nosy,
they want to know the
nosy bastards.
And but it's
empathy. It's curiosity. Empathy. It's curiosity, isn't it?
Human nature.
And I think
to want to know.
I think particularly if you have a different story as well, that can sort of entice you in, can't it?
It would have been boring if we all had the same story, wouldn't it?
But it's good if people are actually switching off Coronation Street and listening to more interesting.
Well, the other day I spoke with my mate Dean the other day, and he said, who have you got on Monday? And I said, I've got this fella called Tim, and I started the conversation probably talking about like the Carry On Camping. As soon as I mentioned ex-forces, boom, I'll listen to that one. Right, straight, because then that's how you get them. Right? Now the thing is, so that'll carry a lot of weight because people then who have that respect for sort of ex-servicemen and blah blah blah, and they're like, hey, I know he's not a stupid fucking fella. What's he onto here? And then it's like your whole life's took this whole dynamic change. And what it does is for me, people are saying, do you know what? He's writing. He's onto something.
Of course,
you know what I mean? That's how it happens.
Well, that's a great thing about what we're doing. Not just myself, but everybody else. We're all coming from different demographics. This is what I say to some of my old friends, and I have a catch up with them and explain to them what sort of people are coming to the Carry On Camping festivals. And the demographic is right across the board. There's a friend of mine, who's Nikki Hine, wonderful, wonderful lady. She came to the festival in August. She's a senior nurse of 30 years. We have teachers there, engineers, plumbers, brickies.
You were shocked when you came to the Crown reunion, weren't you? You came and he was
because I went to his reunion thinking it was just going to be a bunch of
conspiracy theorists.
Oh, do you know what? Yeah, in your mind, and I know it's wrong, but you have an image what you think's going to be.
Yeah, perception.
A perception. Yeah. And when I got there, I was just like, whoa. You know what I mean? These people are normal. And no, because there was doctors, nurses, dentists, there was everything. And because for someone like myself who hadn't really paid much attention to the whole truth movement, if you like, I was like even now, I'm still having my eyes open to, I didn't realise there was so many people. I mean, it's massive.
This is, I suppose, is one of the reasons why Carry On Rockin is going to be very important because, like I say, it'll be open. I mean, the truth is, we'll still have a massive majority of the truthers in there, but we are going to open it up a little bit more for everybody else, and that's important because it allows them to come into us, show how we party, how normal we are, and what different jobs that we've got, and career backgrounds.
We're not aliens.
Yeah, exactly. We're not running
just a different point of view.
And let's be honest, if anybody could relate to that, a biker could, because let's be honest, there's a perception of bikers, like you see them all driving past or getting on at and you think, oh, I'm not going near them. But this is like that fella on that bike could be your local builder or your doctor.
It's a father, it's a son.
You know what I blame for that?
It's a perception.
Clint Eastwood everywhere, which right turn,
Philo Beddo, wasn't it? Like
go ahead, make my day. but again, in society, but the thing is as well, this is where knowledge comes in because there's a perception of bikers. Back in the day, there was a perception of gypsies. There was a perception of Irish. There was a perception of blacks. Come on, it's an agenda. It's to divide and make everybody. But when people get talking, then you realise, fucking hell, he's alright, him. Like you're sat here today dressed in jeans and a shirt and everything, right? But you know, tomorrow, just because you put a pair of leathers and an helmet on, what completely different?
No.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that has to happen as well with people who have the opinion of, you know, they've been vaxxed or they've not been vaxxed. We need that. People need to come together now.
It's not
they do
the
need to
people
come
that
together
have
now.
been duped during that period. It ain't their fault.
No.
It was. You're talking military grade brainwashing.
Well, let's be honest. A lot of parents would have thought they're doing the right things by getting the kids jabbed because they don't want the kids to die.
Of course, there's fear. There was huge fear.
And I think it's still early days. It's like, I mean, obviously more and more is coming out, so a lot of people will still be holding on to their beliefs that they did the right thing.
Of course,
we're not quite there.
Why
yet.
would you want to let go of that?
Well, and it's funny because even I was listening to a lot of Jordan Maxwell last couple of days, and he said, you know, you have to tread carefully with knowledge and how you explain to people, and how you have this dialogue, because people will die for their belief in something. You know, people don't like to be made out as stupid. They, like if you started saying, "Oh, you're stupid, you shouldn't have had," that's the wrong way of.
I've got the biggest respect for people that came to my pub who were in the 60s and 70s that have lived their lives completely asleep, if you want to call it that. I don't like this terminology either, but they woke up to the fact that they've been lied to all their lives, and that must be so difficult when you've lived all your lives. Do you not think
the fundamental thing it's coming back is because as soon as you mess with someone's freedom, that's the line, isn't it? As soon as you mess with someone's like the sovereignty, their freedom, it's like that's it now, too far. And I think that's where people.
But this is what Tim's doing and bringing people together is so important, because as this mounts, as it is doing with your digital technocratic fucking jail that they're going to want to put everybody in, it's very important that people come together and know who to talk to and gain skills and gain community. Because we're together.
There's so many different people like come to Carry On. I've got so much to offer. And as soon as we get all those elements of that society and we have people sort of specialising, as we talked about before, and that's what creates, you know, be it a small or large sort of civilised society, you can then progress forward, and there's less fear. There's less fear, and the more people we can invite in and educate them on what the way of the world, you might say, and what agendas are coming forward, and help them prepare, you know, be it financially or all the other elements, and I think we're doing a good job from that. So going back to sort of Carry On communities, I think we'll see how it goes. I'm quite confident.
Yeah, I think it'll do well. That's good.
Yeah.
I mean, they're already doing fantastic, all of them. But that one. So then the fourth one will be the Carry On camping. That we all know and love, and again, these are all at the same location, and that'll be in the August bank holiday weekend.
Yeah, and that would be a big one, really, because the weather. You expect some decent weather, don't you?
Yeah. I mean, it should be all right in end of April, and progressively it'll get nicer weather from that. But August, we seem to always get blessed. I'm not just saying this. I'm trying to touch on some rabbit foot or something. But we always seem to get blessed a little bit with the Carry On festivals, because it's always really dog shit. There's no other way to say this. But like the first few days of the setup week is dog shit. So we're all there, the volunteers, and we're all like, oh God, look at this, is it going to clear up? And then the day before the event, it clears, and the day of the event, it's lovely. So hopefully that will keep
Fingers
going.
crossed.
Yeah, and so hopefully that'll certainly happen again in August, maybe because we are doing good there, you know, and we get blessed with it. And then anyway, so end of August will be the Carry On camping, and that would be Carry On camping. That will be the sixth one we do, and super looking forward to it. I mean, it's going to be absolutely.
So it's going to be a busy
packed
year.
out set list wise. We have lots of people. I mean, we've already got people booking in.
We've got Ian Brown coming.
Can't wait.
And for free. and
free pie.
Yeah, and that'll be over 3 days again. But I mean, we have a bit of. I encourage people to come along a day before Thursday. No extra charge. Just get settled in on the Thursday and get ready for the weekend, and you know, and then they can always say an extra day. No extra charge. You want to stay an extra day, it's not a problem. Because we start the wrap up on the Monday anyway, but the Healing Land will be open, the stalls will still be open. We're just wrapping up the main marquee and now the new marquee, the moon marquee that we've got. Because now we are getting a bit bigger.
Starting to get names for the place.
Yeah. Well, the main marquee is going to be called the Sun Marquee, and I'm making some banners for that. And the second marquee will now be called the Moon Marquee. Okay. So it is a bit pagan, isn't it? Moon, sun, stars, fire.
We'll have to have a sundial area.
Yeah. I'll set somebody on fire.
Set up your own little mini Stonehenge area.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they did it. Why not? Yeah. I mean, I think we said that when we were in Cumbria. He's like, why can't we make our own?
Why not?
Own stone circle?
Why not?
They did
energy,
it.
innit?
Yeah, that's it. I mean, just.
And what we'll do is, like everything else in life, we'll just make up some bollock story.
Yeah.
We'll just say, do you realise these stones have been here 500 years? I saw Tim burning them in last week. Nailing and whacking them down.
So that'll be the big one, and that'll be wow. I mean, we're certainly growing in size, that's for sure. Some really exciting people are going to be coming along to contribute to that as well. Size-wise, we've got room to grow this next one. And
because you mentioned before, you're already taking up how many acres?
Up to now, we're at 26 acres.
26 acres?
26 acres.
And you reckon you could easily push that on?
There's on the right next door to the land with access, there's another 8 acres, an 8-acre paddock there. I've got my eye on that for August as well. I know the landowners, got to meet the landowners from there, who are from Home Farm Dairies, fantastic people. So I think we're looking good. Do
you have anything like, just me thinking, so do you have anything like where they can have a ride on a horse, up and down and stuff? Because the kids love that.
Yeah, we've got a rodeo.
Have you got
New edition.
Well, that's more for the adults after, right?
New edition for Carry On Camping. Because what I try to do as well is have local businesses come and contribute, and if they're awake, all the better. The Misfits Marquees are coming and doing the Marquees this year. Awake. Wow. It was fantastic, that was. So we've now got the local bouncy castle operator who's coming in. He's got a rodeo in there, so we're bringing that. I think the little kids won't be allowed on, too little. But we've got that. But not a bad idea, that, really, I suppose. Donkey rides at Blackpool Beach is kind of what Carry On is, isn't it, really?
You've had a ride on a few wild animals.
I'll tell you what, I've got some stories.
Yeah, riding cowboy.
I'll tell you what, off camera I could tell you also.
I've got the photos.
Shit.
No, just moving on to what's it called, because I also you mentioned to me an initiative scheme. Just do you want to explain a little bit?
So what we've got, it's called the reinvestment programme. It was an idea that again was born from, I suppose, Carry On communities and what we want to try and give back. There's always, there must be an exchange. And that's where it's come from. What I'm looking to do, we've already seen one recipient of that, and that's Brent Holloway. He's got some great skills. His survival skills are really good. He also has IT skills, which is Linux software, so on and so forth. So what I wanted to do for Brent was to get him mobile. He needed wheels. He's got a motorbike, which is great. But what he needed was a van, 4 wheels, carry all the survival gear, and then what that can do for him is to go to different locations. He can promote himself at Carry On Camping, and then now go on to different locations and give his skills. That'll unplug him. So that's what we're looking to do. Is beyond that is for me to then start using the festival funds once they start generating a little bit better, because they're not in too much at the moment, to be quite honest with you. But once they can start generating more funds, I can then put it into reinvestment. So the idea is, as I said in the emails out to everybody, if you've got a business idea, a business venture, an incentive or something like that, then come and see me, come talk to me. and I can hopefully put some capital into that, get that business up and running. If we can do that, and they can start employing people and start generating wealth, because as much as we might have our own thoughts about money, we need it.
It's amazing.
Yeah, so we need to start generating.
Listen, that's what I mean. A lot of it is just people's fear or thoughts of money. But we need to, straight across the board, we need to flip that round and realise what it is, and make that energy.
It's an energy.
It is an energy. And then, but if it's an energy for good and it's blowing it back in and it's helping people build them, and then that person's giving back.
Absolutely.
Now you've created you've created a
positive.
Massive. So I'm all for that.
So that's what we're looking at doing. I think we'll be looking at some more sort of candidates after August. I think will probably be a time to reevaluate that, and over the winter months, is have a more of a more specific directive onto it, because like I say, if that business that they have that I can provide capital with can then start generating money, then that again could be put into other initiatives. So that's how we do it. That's how we set up that network all around. And if it can be born from Carry On and then expand from that, I think we're doing really good.
No, I think you're doing fantastic.
Because there's so many sort of good things out there, and I think I might have mentioned it before in the podcast. Danny Moore, who does the pharmacy co-op. You've got Shay Godfrey as well, that does the Crops Not Shops as well. So you've got these people that are starting, Danny Moore's been doing this for quite a while now. But if we can give people like him a platform at Carry On, and get him generating more wealth, and that will, we've already got one element of the society there, haven't we? 100%. We've got food distribution, and that's all organic what he does as well, which is fantastic. No chemicals, nothing like that. He has a central hub, and then he distributes it out.
Wonderful, great initiative.
Absolutely.
So we're going to, what's it called, underneath this podcast and on our social media pages, we're going to put a list of all the dates and give a big shout out to all your events coming up. So people who are also who are listening now and they can look at them dates. So at a typical Carry On camping, there's food stalls, there's healing stalls, there's activities.
There's a minimum what we have at Carry On camping. Food stalls, we've got people like catering for the vegans, vegetarians, the meat eaters. There'll be lots of things different by there. The sweet treats, we've got Ricky and Ross from the True Shop who will be doing the candy store. They'll also be providing the bell tents at the festival as well. So they've got their normal store there is the t-shirts and hoodies. We have all the crystal stalls. We have tinctures there and ointments. And
you were on about bringing in a creche so adults can have a bit more private time while the kids are being looked after.
The four fantastic ladies from the northeast are going to be coming in, and they're providing creche facility from about 9:30 in the morning to about 1800. So the mums, dads, or both together can then go to the healing land, have a couple of hours off.
So early morning.
Carry On camping is like one big crash anyway, isn't it? It really is. They just run up and do their own thing, but a bit more specific so they can watch the kids on the bouncy castle and stuff like that. And that'll be for a donation, that one, so they can give a contribution to the girls there. We have a swap table, so we'll have a nice big table there. People can bring in items and get them recycled, upcycled. So we have that there. Activities wise, we have everything from art workshop, clay workshop, candle making workshop. We've got a bee make. We've got Joe, as I said before, we've got Joe Wilson coming, who's going to be a beekeeper and teaching people about production of raw honey. We've got a bushcraft there. We've got a forager. We've got Laura and Julian, who'll be doing greenwood carving. We've got Steve James coming back again, who's Special Forces. He'll be teaching about tactical escape and evasion. It goes on and on. Talkers, we've got Andy Barlow coming back, teaching about sovereignty. We've got relationships coaches coming in as well. Andy Truman is coming in talking about sovereign IDs.
So you're not going to be short of something to do for 3 days?
There'll be always always something.
There's always
Where's
something.
that coming as well?
Well, you know, obviously, if people want to come and have a talk and tell us all about their story and their business,
We'll have a little
and
podcast.
we'll give them a shout out and maybe put them a little promo video together or something, and just have a good chat.
Yes.
A good chat with us, basically. Tell us all about them and share their experiences. Because I think we said we're going to try and put a little video together for Carry On
we'll do
Camping.
that. Yeah.
Which to give it a nice advert platform. So if people can sort of give us their reviews and their experiences and really give a good
Yeah,
chat.
just come over to the tent when we're there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be really good.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic.
And that's everything that's happening in the daytime. Of an evening, we'll be having live music on again.
Well, Ian Brown.
Ian Brown's coming, of course.
I want his autograph as well.
Yeah.
Is Ian Brown the one with Bez?
No,
that's
no.
Sean
But you're
Ryder.
close. Storm Roses.
Yeah.
All right, I'm not an expert, but I could just see myself with the maracas. I've probably got the brains of Bez.
He's done all right for himself.
He has done all right for himself.
His brain might be a bit mushy now. He's done
Too many
all right.
mushrooms.
Yeah. And for all the singlies that are out there as well.
Oh, that was a big thing. Yeah, the singles event.
We've
You
got.
should do a blind date event.
Well,
You
we
should-
might be doing that on the Saturday, literally.
Well, is that a bit like a silent disco?
Three
Or a,
fantastic-
a blind.
Three fantastic ladies are going to be organising that. Fleur, who's actually from the Soul Tribe group, who's one of the admins there. She'll be doing it alongside Sharon and Wendy, and that'll be the Friday from about 7 till late. They're going to be doing it on the Moon Marquee. So all the singlies, I mean, everybody's kind of been.
I was going to say, I'm not promoting like cheating or adultery.
No.
But
I mean-
I'll definitely be up for that.
We'll get you wearing a wristband.
I'll just wear one of my wigs. No,
Yeah.
Max
You'll never know.
Thatcher.
Yeah.
Max Thatcher.
On the prowl.
Yeah, or a big like.
Yeah, big moustache.
Yeah.
Evening, ladies.
You'll never know. You'll never know.
I've just had a night with Mags.
They were forgettable.
And that'll be the Friday, Saturday,
That'll true,
so
mate.
yeah, both nights on that. We might also be doing, I'm waiting for a projector to come in. I'm looking at purchasing a screen, but I think on the Saturday night, I'm going to have like a cinema for the
I've
kids.
got,
that'd
I've
be
got one you
great.
can borrow. I've got
Yeah.
a big inflatable screen that I got for the pub. It's never been used.
Do you know what? It's funny because we was only talking the other day.
Yeah,
It's like
thank you.
24,
Yeah.
I think.
So there's a lady, Natalie Rose, who she's done events before, outdoor cinema events.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
So I thought if
You
I
can
get a
borrow
load,
that.
if I get a load of hay bales, put kids movie on,
Freddie
nice family
Krueger,
movie.
and then send
Yeah,
I've got
and,
projectors as well, but I don't know how good it is.
got comedy night as well. Got obviously been a comedian as well, and so I thought, yeah, put a nice family
Well,
movie
you
on.
can borrow that. I've got a PA that you can borrow to go with it as well.
Yeah.
Do you know what? To be fair, we
It's
have got a fair bit of
yeah.
stuff we could throw you away, to be fair.
Yeah, I can make use out of loads of different things.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of it. Is like it's one in all in sort of thing. With that's why we don't have a VIP area at Carry On. Somebody asked me, "Do you have a VIP area?" When we all piss in the same pot
Yeah, we
with
do,
this.
yeah.
But to be fair, when they're carrying you in your bamboo,
That's different.
you know what I mean?
That's my
making
ego.
your grand entrance.
That's my day.
I could just me and Trix there with our banana leaves.
Oh yeah, like a Jar Waller.
Quality.
That'd be amazing.
True.
wouldn't it?
But I've got to be honest, Tim, for someone who, like myself, who can't even get my wife and 2 kids round a table for a meal at the same time, to put together these events, what you're doing, I have to take my hat off to you because it's phenomenal. It's like to get so many people all in one place and having such a fantastic time. You know what I mean?
And in a difficult period, and word of mouth.
and for the right reasons as well.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? It's a fantastic achievement, and I can imagine it's only going to go from strength to strength.
Yeah.
But to be honest, it's only going to. The only limitation is what you probably place on it. Do you know what I mean? Because I think the way it's going, it could just grow into a
Somebody
beast.
asked me that actually, said, would you ever put a cap on it? And so far, I mean, we're nowhere near that putting a cap on it just yet, that's for sure. But I don't see the reason why we can't. I mean, as long as the feedback that I get coming back from the people and they say, yeah, we still feel like family when we come here. then that's fine.
Yeah.
So it could be 200 people or 20,000 people. I think you get it in 20,000 people, that's for sure. But there's certainly enough for white people in the movement, and that are in there.
It is growing.
There is tens of thousands of
There
us
is, it is
that
massive.
would be willing to come along. So we, if anybody's listening out there, they've got a massive amount of land. Like I said, we're already up to 26 acres for April. I think by August we'll be up to 30 acres. Next year we're going to need 40, 50 acres, that's for sure, because we're getting bigger. And that's a really good thing, because we've still got that.
It's always good to progress, isn't it?
Yeah, it has to progress. There's reasons why it has to progress, is because there's strength, stronger together, which I've always said this. The more we connect together, the more powerful we become.
100%.
Yeah.
No, it's amazing what you're doing, mate, and we're hoping to get you back with a few of your other colleagues in the new studio on the couch, and what we'll do is we'll have more of like on the couch interview. We'll have I don't know how you want to say it, but basically a more
tea on
Scott,
on his knee.
And we'll get a different environment chat going, and chat also about it, because I know you've got a lot of other things you can bring to the table. There's other areas what we can talk about as well.
Yeah.
And with that,
I think it'd be a fantastic idea. That, I mean, we've got, like I said, as we talked about earlier, we've got Brent Holloway. And all the people that there.
Well, I think Andy Barlow would want to even be sat with us. Because, do you know what I mean? And so you've all got a lot of respect for each other, and you're all bringing different things to the table. And I think, to host it, I think we'd be happy to. We'd be over the moon to host it, wouldn't we?
We will indeed.
All right.
Don't forget to subscribe, please.
Subscribe to Drake Michigan, and we're going to put all the list of all the events and everything what's going on at Carry On Camping.
And see you at the festival.
And if you see Tim, give him a big shout out and give him rub his head or say thank you or whatever you want to do.
Just give me a year high. If you see me at the festival, I'm usually the guy running around with the cowboy hat on. Usually sort of only have time to sort of sit down for a few minutes, but I'm trying to make a bit more time this time round and relax a little bit more and enjoy the festival. But yeah.
You deserve it.
Thanks for having me on.
Thanks, Tim.
Appreciate
Lovely to meet
it.
you.